Insta360 just dropped their new product, the Luna Ultra, and today we are going to model this. The entire series will consist of 3 parts, because we're going to model, texture and light this product. First, we're going to start modeling the product. It is not a beginner-friendly product, so if you do not understand Blender just yet, don't model this product. I would actually recommend not following this tutorial. But if you are interested in the challenge and you want to improve your Blender skills, then follow along. This is going to be a step-by-step tutorial. And by the way, if you want to learn product animation from beginner to advanced, I have a magnificent course that does this, and it shows you step-by-step how to make product animations. Modeling, texturing, animation, simulation, geometry nodes, and even how to get your first paying customer. So check that out if you're interested. The link is in the description and in the comments. So let's dive into Blender straight away. I've already deleted the cube and the light for good measure. I will bring in the cube and delete it again. First, we're going to bring in our references. I'm going to press Shift A, go to Image, Reference, and bring in the front view image. Alt R, RX, 90. As always, the reference images can be found on Patreon. I'm going to click on one, and I will make sure that this is centered with the 3D cursor. You can have a good look over here. Then I'm going to bring in a new image, which is going to be the side. Alt R, RX90, RZ90, and let's bring this inside the other one, like so. Let's bring it up. I tried my best to make it the same size, but it's just a screenshot, so I'm not entirely sure if this is going to align well. Seems like it kind of does. Maybe scale it up just a little bit and move it on the Z axis. So let's move this backwards on this axis, G and Y, G and Y. Let's click on 3, make sure that this one is also centered. I think we did a pretty good job there. Now, I also got my pure ref right here with all the images that I found on a local website called MediaMarkt. And now we have some idea of what this shape is going to be from all sides. And then we can actually make this product. Now, I think it's the best method to start with the bottom, since this is deciding the shape of all the rest. So if we get this right, then all of this will also make sense. So let's bring in that reference as well. Image, and let's bring in the bottom side, and let's see, this is obviously way too big for the actual product size. Make sure it's centered, G and X, and now let's scale it down and just make sure that this makes sense. G and Y, let's click on 7. And let's start with this shape right here. Now you might be tempted to start with a plane, do something like this, then go over here, select it all, Control Shift B, and you bevel this. And then you might be tempted to just roll with this as the general shape. But the problem is that you cannot add loop cuts anymore, which means that in order to fix this, you would have to bring all of those together with F, right, and clean up this entire mesh. That is a possibility. And then once you remove all of this and fill this up, then you can add loop cuts again. So that would be a possibility, but I don't like this method of working. What I'm going to do is simply bring in a circle, and I will add this one with 16 vertices. And I like starting with the corners like this, okay? And then I'm going to click on 1, remove everything that is not in line with this angle. I'm going to delete all of these vertices, and that means we now have our shape. But now there's a problem. We actually want all of this to be in the middle so we can estimate how far off it all is. So in theory, if I just very meticulous here with my 3D cursor placement, I can place it in the middle here. I will take this one, press E, X, and set the pivot point to 3D cursor as X0, and that should bring it exactly to the middle. Now, obviously, this has a slight curve, so I'm going to reflect that right here, and I will add an extra loop cut and reflect it in the curve as well. Okay, so let's take a mirror modifier, mirror, and let's mirror it on the X-axis, and let's use the 3D cursor as the pivot point for this. Because right now they are intersecting, and there are 2 things we can do in order to get this to work. We can either place it right here, cursor to selected, then make sure that the origin is set to 3D cursor, and that should place it on the other side. There are different methods, but we're just going to roll with this one. It aligns pretty nicely. If I add a subdivision surface modifier to this, you can already see that this is starting to work out. Now, in order to progress here, I'm going to take this and press E and move it down on the Y axis. You can see it's immediately doing so on the other side as well, but I find that I need to know exactly where this ends. So let's also do the axis on the Y. But since we've got our geometry point that's not entirely in the middle, it's going to place it right there. So we need to shift some things around. So before we do this, let's first select this and apply the mirror by pressing Ctrl A. This makes sure that we have everything right here. Now it might be the case that there are two vertices right here. Let me bring this up ever so slightly, and that they are not connected. But in our case, things worked out fine. If you do not have this, select all, M, merge by distance, and that should remove the remaining vertices. Now we have this part, and it would be nice if we know exactly where this middle line is, and we actually have a method in order to do that. So if you want to make sure that you have the middle line of this, so we can have our mirror fit completely perfectly, we can add a plane, press A, go into edit mode, press M, merge, collapse. And that means we only have one vertex. And this one is already on the correct point right here for our 3D cursor. And we're going to press E, Y, and make sure it's reaching the outer end. You can be as detailed with this as you like. I'm going to bring it up ever so slightly so I can see it. Take this, G and Y, it's going to end right there. Obviously, if we now press Ctrl R, we have a vertex that is going to be completely in the middle of this shape, right? Because we determined the entire length. So if you take half of that, then now the mirror modifier should work. So Shift S, cursor to selected. I'm going to select this, go to the modifiers, add another mirror modifier, and this one will be on the Y axis. And we're going to change our origin point to the 3D cursor. Now, as you can see, it is not aligning perfectly. This one should align with the 3D cursor or else it's not going to attach. So let's take this and this, set the pivot point to 3D cursor, SY0, and now it's moved exactly towards the 3D cursor, and you can also see that it has been aligned with the rest of the mirror. Now obviously, this is not following the correct shape, but we're going to solve that later. I'm going to apply this mirror. I'll first make sure that this is connected. It is. If not, press A, M, merge by distance. Should see some number underneath here. Now let's make sure that we are following this curvature. I am simply going to take all of these, like so, G and Y, and do it by hand. Because there's nothing wrong with doing things by hand sometimes, depending on the shading issues you might get. But since this is going to be a flat surface on the bottom, I think we're going to be able to get away with it. G and Y, and now we should have a Ctrl 3, a shape that looks exactly like the bottom part. Now, isn't that cool? I think that's awesome. And let's see if we get it from this angle. It's fitting quite nicely with the rest actually. I'm just making this up as I go, by the way, so I have not modeled this product before. I'm just doing something. So let's Shift S, cursor to world origin. Let's take this, Shift S, selection to cursor. Now it's on the correct position. Let's bring it over here. G and Z, G and Y. Let's make sure that we have this. Did I just nail it perfectly? Whoa. Ooh, that's crazy. In any case, we have our model right here. Press 1. Make sure it's aligned with the bottom. Like so. 3. And now it should also align with this side. And that means that we can now extrude things upwards and manipulate the shape so it's fitting everywhere perfectly. Let's first save our project because we are so far already. Let's make a backup as well. Shift D, X, M, new collection. And it's going to be the model backup. Turn that collection off, I don't want to see it. So let's go into edit mode, select everything, E and Z, and this one should be scaled. Let's set it to median point again. Scaled, G and Z. I'm just going to follow the reference here, right? If it's not looking correct for a certain axis, you can always lock it to that axis, so S and Y, and change the shape in that fashion. E and Z, let's bring it up. I'm going to look at 1. We can scale this ever so slightly. Let's look at 3 again. Seems like we need to move it towards this point a bit more because there's more of an angle right here than there is over here. If you want to fix that in a very good way, oh, here you go. There you have one of those weird vertices. I'm going to show you how to fix that later. Shift S, cursor to selected right here. Set the pivot point to 3D cursor. Let's click on 3. Let's make sure that this entire line is connected. Alt click, 3, S and Y, and now it will scale from the 3D cursor towards the correct position, which is right over there. And this one will remain straight, and this one will be moved in the correct position. Before we continue, let's first make sure that this is correct. The problem is probably the surface normals. So if we look at the face orientation, some of these are turned inside out, and that makes sure that the shading artifacts exist. If we click on A, Shift N, then it will make everything that is the inside face red and the outside face will be the normal mesh color, and that will solve our problems right here, shade smooth. I'm going to take this and just try something. So E and Z. Let's scale this from the Y again, so it's following that perfect spot. And let's see, this one should be brought down. S and C, R and X, and then we can also rotate it ever so slightly. So now we have a rotation here that's already starting to follow that curve a little bit. And from here on, what I think is the best thing to do is simply to press Alt-Z, take all the vertices, and let's move those step by step in the right direction, like so. G and Z, G and Z. Now this one is not going to work out, but that's no problem. G and Z, G and Z, G and Z, and G and Z. And make sure that you do not have those weird type of curves where sometimes it's lower and sometimes it's higher. Just make sure that it's following a natural curve pattern. That would be logical. Something like this. Increments that make sense, right? All right, so now we have this shape, and I'm kind of wondering if we look from the front now, if things are already adding up. I'm not entirely sure. The first thing I find is that we have a lot more topology here than over here, and I'd like to fix that. So I'm going to add 2 more over here, 2 more over there. Do the same on the other side. So 2 more over here, 2 more over there. That should keep our shape a bit more consistent. It is also moving a bit more like this. So click on one, S and X, and let's move it ever so slightly on that area. All right, so now let's make this part right here, and that will immediately make the model a bit more complete. So let's select all of this, hold Control and select this entire area. Shift D, B, separate the selection, and now we have this line. Click on 3, and I will click on Edit Mode, A, E, and I'm following the right side. And one thing I'm noticing is that it would be nice if we follow this in such a fashion so that this line is already created with our line. So let's set this to 3D cursor, S and Y. And let's make sure that we are setting ourselves up for success here. It's E, like so. S and Y. Let's make sure that it's going like this. And I'm looking more at this line than at this line at this point in time, because we can always just take this and move it ourselves. So right here it's pretty good, but this one, for example, Alt-Z, we can move that just a little bit like so. GG for these ones, GG for this, and clean up our topology right here just a little bit. So it's having a natural edge flow. GG, GG, like this. But now we already have this line going in that fashion. So let's make sure that we keep going onward with that trend. Supposed to move a little bit over here. Still looking pretty good. Press E and Z. I feel like it's somewhere over here. Let's rotate this on the X-axis, median point, like so. Loop tools, relax. If you're in Blender 5.2 already, you probably have loop tools built in. I feel like it could be moving like a little bit more into that specific shape like this. It may not seem like it, but if you know R and X, it seems to be following that just a bit more correctly. S and Z, just play around with this until you get it. All right, so the way I see it right now is that this line is following this perfectly, and that's nice. Of course, not over here, but we're going to fix that. And let's add some topology to this. I want everything to be squares. I'm going to start with this one. That's enough squares. And make sure that our new squares are approximately the same size as the other ones. Something like this, and something like this. So this square is approximately the same size as this square, and that should be the case. No shading issues, and that means we've done it right. All right, so what I'm going to do is press K, and if you now cut through this, you will not be able to have everything exactly correct on the other side as well. But if you press C, now it's also going to enable cut through. You can see that on the bottom side here, right over there. And I'm going to click and follow the shape. And luckily it's kind of following the shape of the vertices we already have, except for this one. And I will end it right here. Press enter. And I think we also have it on the other side. That is the case. Now it doesn't seem like this is completely perfect edge-wise. So GG, let's move this around so it's looking a bit more like a curve. I think we are kind of getting there. Something like this, move this one over to the side. And that should probably do the trick. All right, so now let's press on C and let's select everything that is following along with this, like so. And this way we are also selecting the backside if you have Alt-Z enabled, which is the see-through mesh function. All right, so we get all of that selected. Click on 3. And the way I see it, and I've also watched some videos on this, it is not as pronounced as you can see right here in the product render. It's a little bit less pronounced. Doesn't really matter for us though. We're going to press E and S and X and then bring it outside ever so slightly. That looks pretty good actually. I do feel like here it's already ending. So for this part, for example, we can slide that over. Do make sure to do that on the other side as well. This one right over here and this one right over there. GG. Let's move it inside. And I think that's just a little bit closer to the reference. We can also select this entire line, do it on the other side, and Loop Tools Relax. There you go. That seems like a pretty good shape to me. Let's give it a solidifier real quickly. And let's solidify it to the inside. All right, so that was a pretty easy part. Of course, we can also make this one, that hole, it's only supposed to go in here. So what I will do is press 7, Alt 7, select all of this. So we do not have this side selected. Press H, let's go back, click on 3. And now we can only see through this, but there is no backside. Okay, so we're not messing up anything else right there. We can take all of this and press I, P to separate that selection. Then we're going to bring in a new mesh. It's going to be a circle. Only 16 vertices will probably be enough. Let me double check. Statistics. Those edges are 19. Put a 3D cursor right there. Let's bring in a circle. Let's give it 8 vertices. Let's get it down. And I will place this somewhere over there, like so. Then I will take this, delete the vertices, select all of this, Shift D, rotate it around. All right, not completely perfect, no problem. I'm going to delete this one, connect this up, select all of these, Shift D, bring it down. Not so well at following this part, but that's no problem. We're going to delete this vertex again. We're simply going to make the shape by hand. Select all of this, press F, take this. Let's make sure it's all following along nicely. Press E, make this some type of curve shape as well. E and F. Let's add a loop cut right there. How many do we have? Those are 15 vertices. I think we were supposed to have 19. One more, 2 more. So now it's 19. In theory, if I now select our circle shape, add a shrink wrap modifier, project it on the plane. Well, apparently there's not much to be changed here, so that's good news. Going to apply the shrink wrap. Shift click on the original mesh, Control J, turn the solidify off for now. Let's click on this. Now we have both of these selected and bridge these edge loops. We might have to do some cleanup or maybe not. We'll see. Kind of depends on how good this model is created. All right, so now what I'm going to do, Shift D, P, separate the selection, select this line, A, and grid fill. 2 edge loops. Okay, so something is wrong here. So do I have to connect this by hand then? That's also a possibility. Let's see, press F. And this one and that one. Just like this, press F. Now we have that shape as well. It's not the greatest mesh, but I think it will work out fine for what it is that we are trying to accomplish here. There you go, we've got that side finished. What we could do is enter in this little circle already. I'm not sure if I want to do that just yet. Well, we could of course just take all of this, press I, and scale it down, bring it right over there. right mouse click, loop tools, circle, turn it into a circle. Let's see if that messes up our shading. I don't think it does. And if it doesn't, this is pretty easy to connect. I mean, if you just remove all of this and select this, grid fill, then you'll be back in game. So we have set ourselves up for the hole already. We could extrude it and add the bevel and all that, but I'm just going to leave it like this for now. So let's now do this back side here. And then we're going to make this component separately. Those two are the easiest. And then we're going to start with the hardest part, which is right over here. Alt-H. Let's bring everything back. Should have done this before, actually. That would have been better. No problem. You always find out during the process what you did wrong. Like this. Okay. And I'm going to Shift D, duplicate this, separate the selection. I will turn off the solidify modifier. So that means we already have the correct shape for this. Maybe bring it up just a little bit. And E and Z for easy, because it's quite easy. Let's add some loop cuts, make it squares. Then go in edit mode. Just A, Alt E, extrude faces along normals. Bring this inside until we have reached the gap here. You can always make sure that it is connected properly. And then we can press S and Y, but we don't want this part on the bottom side to move as well, as you can see. So in order to fix that problem, what I'm going to do is make this a vertex group and assign it. Then make a new vertex group, Control I, and assign all of this. So now if I want to select the inside, I can simply press select. It's going to be a bit easier later on. So select both of these lines, Shift S, cursor to selected, 3D cursor, pivot point to 3D cursor. Click on this group, select. Now we get the right group selected, S and Y, and make sure it aligns over there as well. So let's hold Alt and click on these lines, make sure that we have all of these. Click on this, click on that, and that should select everything. Hello. And now if we press Control B, I believe, the thing should work out fine. What I see is that it's some type of speaker. So there's also a circle in the back here, following this curvature. Would be nice if we have the reference for this on the other side. So let's do that. Shift A, image reference. Alt R, RX 90, RC 180, I believe. GNX, let's make sure it's centered. Now what I'm going to do is select the inner part and hide it. In this way we are only working on this side. Let me select all of this and then this area. And then I will press I and inset it. This shouldn't mess with our topology too much. We have some issues over here. I think those can be solved later on. So before I continue with this process, I will simply Shift D, model back up. Press P, separate the selection and hide it. Control 1, Alt C. Let's add a mesh circle. Let's first check how many we need. 30. So I'm going to start with 16 mesh circle. 16 vertices. Scale this down. Remove all the useless vertices like this. Let's take this, GNX, ENX, sorry. Let's add a mirror. Let's have our object be the original one. This one. X, turn on clipping. There you go. It's going straight to the middle. Going to bring it up just a little bit to cohere to the shape. Let's add another loop cut and G and bring it up. Going to take all of this, Shift D, SE -1, G and Z, to bring it down until those vertices right here align. And apply the mirror, merge by distance. Didn't remove anything, so let's increase that until we see it remove 2 vertices. And now we have this, but it's not following the curvature. And it also doesn't have enough vertices yet. I'm going to select both of these and Control Shift B. And I will scroll this down and make the shape like this. Now let's bring back our original mesh. Let's select the circle, shrink wrap modifier, select the original mesh. Now it's following along with that shape. So the shrink wrap actually messed things up a little bit. It is not following our mesh correctly entirely. So Control 1. And if you go into edit mode, it is, but if you go to the shrink wrap, it isn't. Let's apply the shrink wrap. So let's go over here, loop tools, relax. That is doing something at least. And I'm going to increase this little slider with the smooth tool. And that will make sure that everything is following along I'm going to do the same over here, relax, and slide it over here like so. Let's do the same over here and over here at the same time. Loop tools, relax, and let's slide it over like this. Okay, so now it is following along with the shape correctly. Let's hide this one. Select this one last, Control J. Select this line, that line, and bridge these edge loops. All right, now immediately you might see something that looks like this. Then we can select this outer line and smooth it. There you go. Now we have a pretty good looking mesh here. How about we just do this, G and Y, scale it inward just a little bit, and grid fill this. And now we have this area that is supposed to be, yeah, that side. Pretty cool. Now for the grid fill, I'm going to press I again, because I need to get this outer line later on for the texturing. That one. And then the inside will be this. There's something odd with this side right here. So Alt H, S and Y this just a little bit. G and Y even. Yeah, that looks better. Could be even more. And I think it should only be done on the bottom. So let's select all of this, hold Control and deselect all of that, hold Control, deselect all of these. Boom. And then on 3, G and Y, bring this over just a little bit. S and Y, G and Y. Make sure it's just a little bit more perfect. All right, for the next part, we're going to be making this entire circular type shape on the top. And that is flowing over into the final base part. But we're first going to make this entire shape right here, because I think it's the easiest right now. Let's go over here, let's hide this one. Let's click on 1. And let's simply start with this shape, which is just a circle. So let's add a circle. I think 16 should be fine. I'm going to scale it down so it fits exactly into this product. And that should also be correct right over here. So scale it down, go into edit mode, press E, Z, it's going up there, E and Z, scale it in. I think that's basically it for this model. Let's also press F on the bottom. And now we need to figure out how to get to this side. All right, so now we're going to make the camera. And the camera is a pretty hard part, not specifically because of the front side, but because of the top side. Because if you look at it like this, there's a very particular shape going over here. We have this flat part that is circular on the top. We also have all of these circular parts. So this is going to be the hardest part of this entire model probably. But still we're going to do it right now. Let's go. Let's select this. And I'm going to bring in a circle. And circle can have 16, that is completely fine. RX 90. And I'm going to bring this to the side and make sure that it is aligning with the curve shape right there. Let's select all of this. Let's delete the vertices. And I am first going to create a new line so we can see where the 3D cursor is supposed to end up. So let's add a plane. Let's bring it up. A, M, collapse. Now we only have one vertex. Let's bring it right over here, E and Z, and bring it over there. That's great. Now if we bring this, and now if we press cursor to select it, this should be completely in the middle where the middle vertex will also end up. So that is the case. I'm going to select our previous model. I'm going to select this one, set this to 3D cursor, ESX0. That should bring it to the middle. And this one, EZSZ0. That should bring it right over there. So now we have this shape. Should be going out just a little bit more, so G and X to reflect that and give it that slight curve right there. Let's add a mirror modifier and let's select our object, and that is going to be the plane. And now it's going to move over to the other side. I will go into edit mode, select everything, Shift D, SZ -1, that will bring it over to the other side. I'm going to apply the mirror, going to select all of this, press M and merge by distance, and that should remove 2 vertices. Now we have this base shape. Let's click on 3, So make sure it's on the correct location, somewhere over here. And this seems like a simple shape, but if you look from the top, it's going to be a different story. So I'm going to bring in the top reference, image, reference, there you go. Alt R, scale it down, G and Y, let's bring it right on there. And let's bring it to the middle, scale it up, until it is fitting with the original size. G and Y, let's make sure it aligns with whatever we made before. So right over here. And with 3, it should now also be on the correct axis. So that's cool. I'm going to bring it up ever so slightly, but we can't look through this. So I'm going to click on the Data Object Properties tab, click on Opacity and bring this down so we can actually see through it. And now I do find that this part is a bit in the way. So I'm going to select all of this, bring it into its own collection. I'm going to call it the original model. Now the way I imagine this will go is that this is a circle type shape. This is more like a cube, but we should also take into account that we should get this shape already in there. We could start with a cube, then relax some edges and make this into a curve. And I actually think that's a pretty good option. And that would mean that we start from over here, press 1, go into edit mode. And what I don't like is that we don't have any edges here. So we basically want everything to have the same amount of edges. So this one should have one more, this one should have one more, oh, right over here. And then we should have some more over here. Probably 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4. There you go. And if we click on this, it also has 44 vertices, which is an even number, and that is required to get the grid fill. Otherwise, you're not going to get a grid fill. So something like this. For now, I'm going to undo this because I want to work with this shape and it's just a bit easier to connect. So let's click on E and S and Z, and make sure that all of these faces are approximately the same width and height, like this. Let's click on 7. Let's move this back just a little bit. I'm going to scale this E, Y, and S. Let's scale it like so. E and Y, and let's bring it all the way. Let's bring it all the way over here. Now this should already have a circle. So I'm simply going to add all of these extra lines. Just select all of this. And I will press I, Loop Tools, Circle, scale it down, G and X. This is not a very clean looking circle, so I'm going to press SX0. 7, let's make sure this makes a bit more sense. So something like this. And since we have some overlapping vertices right here, it's going to make it look quite odd. So I'm going to select that, this one and that one. S and Y, S and Z, and change the shape of that just a little bit. Auto shade is smooth. We still get this weird looking result, but as soon as we bevel this, that will be completely gone. So I'm not going to be bothered with this minor shading issue we see right here, simply because we have a temporary problem. So we're going to take all of this, Shift D, P, separate the selection, select it. Let's bring it slightly to the side. I'm going to click on 1, and I feel like our original model here is not conforming too well to the ultimate end state of this. So let's select the entire circle again. Let's click on 1. I think, in theory, this should all be slightly bigger. Just a little bit, like so. I also think that if we take this one and place it right over here, it's going to conform better to the overall shape. I'm going to do the same for this, but make sure to only get the bottom side. Shift S, cursor to selected, that's going to be our new base point. I'm going to select all of this all the way over there, like so. 3D cursor, SE0. So that's our new base point. And I'm also going to click on 7, Alt-C, make sure that we look completely through this, delete all of these vertices, bring in a mirror modifier, and make sure that the origin point is in between this. Shift-S, cursor to selected, object, set origin to 3D cursor. Mirror on top of the subdivision to get rid of that weird looking line. Clipping turned on. Okay, so now we should have the same sides like this. And that's already fitting a bit better. Now let's do the same for the top part. So like right over here, it can probably be brought up. Just a little bit. So like so. Shift-S, cursor to selected. Let's select all of these as well. Cursor, SE0, and that should bring it up just a notch. And that aligns a bit better with the rest of the model. Just a small adjustment there. Now we're going to take this circle, click on 1, and increase the size. Go to medium point, origin to geometry, like this. And just make sure that it's following the reference a little bit better, like so. I think it's slightly going over the other model as well. So I'm going in here, press E and X. Why is it not doing anything? E and X, yeah, there you go. 1 and G and X, scale it down just a little bit like so. And then E and X and bring it towards the outside like this. This one can have a crease. Let's also make sure that all of the normals are corrected. Shift-N. That looks a bit better already. Very cool. Now I'm going to take this, click on 3, and it seems to me like we're going to have to move a little bit. So let's take this and take that. All of this can be deleted. Then take these lines and these lines. I think we have everything now. Click on 3, E and Y. And let's bring it right over there. Click on 7, SY 0. There you go, until right over here. And that gives us that part. I do feel like this entire area should be scaled down, but also feel like it's a bit too late for that. So I'm going to scale this one up and take the rest and scale it down. Like so. Take all of this, Alt-S. Take this one, Alt-S. And that seems to be more correct actually. I now want to connect this up. So press F for this side and press F for this side as well. That is connected now. And we have an internal part that looks exactly like this. So I'm simply going to select all of this, Shift D, scale it down ever so slightly, P, separate the selection, select it, select everything, press F, press I, and bring this inside just a little bit. Now we're going to continue working with these parts, and I could probably give it some more geometry, but I'm not going to bother with that for now. So SY0, make sure it's straight. And let's move with this edge. So let's bring it right over there. RZ, bring it something like this. E once more, like so. And E. It's obvious that this is scaling outwards as it is approaching the final part. SX0. And here it's going to enter into a sphere again. Now, as you can see, we kind of made a mistake here. It should have been flat, I believe. Yeah. Also, if we look from the top, that is correct. No, it shouldn't look like this. It should have been the same size all throughout, so the same as this. In other words, if we take this, Shift-S, cursor to selected, then take all of this, SC0, and we're going to take Loop Tools, flatten, and then bring all of this down just a little bit, SC0, and bring it down like so, until we follow the original shape again. Going to delete the interior of that. And we're going to do approximately the same thing for this side. So cursor to selected. Let's first use Loop Tools Flatten, SC0, and then G and Z. Bring it up again until it is aligning with our previous mesh, like this. So right here it should be connected to another sphere. First things first, I'm going to duplicate this. Shift D, X, bring it all the way over there. Then select everything that is part of this and bridge these edge loops. Alright, I'm not sure why it's doing this, but I'm simply going to fill it up again. Press I. We're probably going to add some loop cuts here as well in order to make it completely flat again. I know you can see through this right now. We're going to solve that later on. So let's add a mirror modifier. Mirror it to this part, same for this one. So now we need the backside circle, and that one is a bit more complex, as it has a weird looking shape on the background. For now, let's turn off this empty. Let's bring back the one we got for the backside. Control 1. And we should now make this shape. If I understand correctly, it is first entering into a very normal circular shape right there. Not entirely sure about that, what this backside actually is. But if I look from the top view, you can see it is somewhat of a circle again, just like the others. So we're going to do that. So let's add a circle, mesh, circle, 32 is fine, RX 90, click on 1, G and Y. Let's bring it right over there. I'm going to make it this one, scale it up. In edit mode, E and Y, scale it down. Then for this part, I'm going to select it again and E. Don't mind the perspective distortion, this is just a camera feature, so if it's not completely straight right here and there's some type of curvature that you can see, it's due to the camera, it's not due to the modeling program itself. Select this, Shift E, to make this a harsh line. Also going to add a subdivision surface modifier to it, like so. And that is now connected. We have a circle with 6 sides. And there are 2 ways in which we can tackle this problem. So I'm going to select all of these parts right here. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rows of these. And I'm going to press I. Okay, and then I'm going to delete all of those faces. If I now have a look, there are 20 vertices. So if I select this and look at this one, it only has 6. So we need to make sure it ends up at 20. How do we do it? Well, if we add 7 on both sides, so 7 over here and 7 over here, I believe, something like this, we should end up with 20. And now we're going to connect this one to that one, Control J, it will remove the mirror, unfortunately. So before we do that, let's take our original, let's apply the mirror, then select this entire area, LP, separate the selection, and now it's its own separate part. We're going to select this one, then this one last, Control J. Select this entire edge ring, this one, and so now let's bridge edge loops. That's basically it. So now this is connected. Seems pretty odd there, so Shift N. Okay, that solved the problem. So now it is connected to the other circle perfectly, just like we want it. First, let's connect up the other side as well. Press I, delete the faces. Those are 18. That's odd. So I guess we do need one more. Press I, X, 20. Okay, so now it's the same. Select this and that, Control J, and bridge these edge loops. There you go. That looks pretty cool. That looks pretty cool. Time for a little break, and then we're going to do one of the hardest parts of this entire model. So I'll see you right there. Now, I'm not entirely sure how this is supposed to close, so I'm just simply going to press F and I, and that will be it for this part. So what I feel like is happening is that this part, right over here, has some internal area that is moving inside some more. And if I look at the reference here, it is kind of sloping here, and then it's moving further down that line. Not entirely sure how this is supposed to operate, so I'm simply going to do my best guess and select all of this, S and Z, make sure it is not intersecting the mesh, but like slightly tucked underneath it. And for this one, apparently it should be slightly higher. Okay. And then we got all of these, let's click on this dash button. I'm going to select all of this for now. and dissolve these edges. They are not necessary for this specific part right now. I'm also going to select this face and delete it. And now I'm going to take this area and move it out further to the front, like so. Let's have a look. I think that is correct. If I look at the reference, SNC, I'm going to scale this up, and it might come through it like this, but if you don't see it in the final result, then it doesn't really matter. So SNC, like so, and then we will add some loop cuts right over here. So it is following that shape a bit more correctly. And I feel like we should have one more edge going around here. So if we select this inner area, E and S, I think this is what is happening. But in this fashion, we have solved the problem where it is not connected anymore, except from this side. So just make sure to select this edge, G and X, and move it in such a fashion so that all of those problems have disappeared. Now it's going to create some new problems, so it seems. So let's select this, G and X, and let's bring it right over here. We can also add some extra loop cuts just to close it up. Select this, press I, and now it is completely flat, just like the reference. And what I want to do now is delete those faces. Select this entire circle, Shift D, and Loop Tools Circle. So now it's back into its normal circular shape. And I will connect this up using the bridge edge loops. And it doesn't seem to work with this one, but it does work with the bridge for loop tools. Although we need to turn off the twist, then we can turn the middle part inside out, so R and X, until the topology makes a bit more sense. Like so. Then we're going to select this, grid fill, and I'm going to select a range from over here, G and X, and bring it slightly more outwards. And I feel like we are touching upon what I see in the reference here. I don't feel like it is the most beautiful. Shift S. I'm going to select all of this and set the pivot point to 3D cursor, SX0. That will bring it outside just a little bit, but we still get that curvature a little bit more. So maybe we should exaggerate it just a little bit. A bit more like this. Have this part go inside a little bit more, like so. Then select this entire area. Shift S, cursor to selected. Select this entire area, S, X, and 0. And then we still have that circular type shape going on here where it's moving over into the flat area. All right, so now we have this part completely in place. For some reason, on the other side, it is not completely doing the exact same thing. Oh, and that is because this part was its own specific mesh and we extruded that inside. And if we want to get that completely perfect, click right over here, tree, select the entire middle part here, including this area, and delete the faces. Add a modifier, mirror, and mirror it over to the other side, bring it on top of the subdivision. And that should solve the problem. And it does. Very good. Apply the mirror. Let's go back in here. Let's press F, press I. And that should all look fine and dandy again. Cool. So that is that part completely finished. Now let's make the other spherical part on the back side of this. And then we'll connect it up to our original circle that we created. For this part, I think it's a separate mesh. So I'm going to fill this up. Press I. Give it some extra geometry, and now it is completely perfect. So the game plan, simply going to take this one, Shift D, P, separate the selection. Now we get this part, G and Y ever so slightly, scale it up ever so slightly, and I'm simply going to press E. Let's have a look. Should be going all the way over here. And the other part we'll figure out later. Okay. So let's first connect it up. This part should be connected with that part. Let's have a quick look. It seems to be doing that from all sides. If I look on the front angle, which we also have right here, we're going to take these two, Click on 3, so G and Y. Let's use Loop Tools Flatten. G and Y. Press E, rotate this. Let's bring it up. SE0, let's get it down. All the way over here, and then it should be connected to our sphere. Let's close this. Let's delete the faces. There are 8 edges right here. I'm not entirely sure how we're going to do it right on this one. I'm just going to add 2 loop cuts. And on the bottom side, it should be connected. So that means that we're going to select this, and this. I think that should be enough. Press I, X, delete the faces. Let's make sure that this one is connected to that one. Select this, and then select that, and this obviously has more. So this is 14, this has 8. In order to fix that, we're going to add another loop cut right here. 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 and 14, bridge edge loops. Those are now connected. This one obviously is a bit too big. So I'm going to bring it right over here. Select everything, Shift N. That should make it a bit more normal looking. Let's see. I still feel like we should take this and make it ever just slightly, just make it smaller, just a little bit. Now for this horrendous parts, I'm going to press I first, just to have a look at our general idea. Yeah, this looks fine. Obviously this one has the same problem, so I'm going to press I on both of these. You're wondering why we're not beveling this? Well, I think pressing I is a bit of a safer method because I can get rid of it in a more easy fashion. I was going to add some loop cuts right over here to make it more straight. That looks pretty nice. This part seems like it is harsher, so I'm going to select this entire ring all the way over here. Shift E and give that a harsher look. Maybe not too much, just like this. Yeah. So now that is also connected, and that means that we only have this weird looking backside that we should create. So for the backside, we're going to duplicate this once again. P, separate the selection. I'm going to select it to bring it outward ever so slightly. Press Ctrl I, and in this case, I'm kind of just going to use proportional editing. So G and Z, I'm going to bring this down like so. And then I want to select this part, S and X, and have it follow this odd looking shape, just a little bit more. Can't look at it perfectly, but I feel like if we just do this, then we're pretty far in the process. Okay, so that is the shape. So let's press I here and delete that face. Now let's select this inner part. Delete all the vertices, and now we have only the vertices left. If we now grid fill this, let's see what we get. I think we should be able to get some more out of this, like so. There you go. Then we still have the original shape, but now we have some geometry to work with. So let's click on 3, let's bring it out. S and Z seems to be the logical option here, like so. There you go. So before we continue, the first thing we need to fix is that this part that we just created is way too thin. So I'm simply going to select all of this, delete the faces, go over here, delete those vertices, select this, grid fill. Now we're back in the original state. I'm going to delete those faces and grid fill this. Okay, so in theory, everything is now back to its original position. I think that's the case. So let's do it again, but this time let's do it right. I'm going to select all of this, including this, and let's click on 3. Let's lock it on the y-axis, SY0, should be straight. Like this, press E, Let's rotate it. Let's bring it up like so, SC0. Let's bring it all the way over here. It should be attached to this area. Slightly too thick, so maybe something like this. And let's have a look. I think if we move over here, take all of these parts, like this, press I, let's delete the faces. We now have 22 vertices. Let's also take all of these. X, delete the faces, let's have a look, 18. So let's add another one. So that's 19, 20, 21, 22. This one has 22, this one has 22, that's 44. Let's bridge these edge loops. Okay, there you go. Let's add some loop cuts here, just to keep that original shape a bit more correct. I feel like if we have a look at this, and we slide this up like so, we can add an extra loop cut here. That makes it look slightly better. I think these are a bit more flattened. So let's select all of this. Like so. SX0. I think that would make more sense. Let's take this, dissolve these edges. Yeah, I think from a design perspective, this makes a lot more sense. SX0, slide this up, slide this up. This one should be straight. So let's GG and F, E. And let's bring it down. Now let's select this entire area. And let's use Loop Tools, flatten. Let's click on 3. Let's bring this out. There you go. And then let's do the same for this area. Loop Tools, flatten. 3. And let's see if this makes a bit more sense. I think it does. At least for finishing the final part, this makes a bit more sense. No, something is odd. Something is odd and I want to fix it. There you go. That's not there. And that will solve all the problems except for right there, which does look pretty odd. Why is this? What is this? All right. Cool. So now if we bring back this original object, I feel like it's already fitting a bit better. Now there's one part here, perhaps we can say S and Y 0. Click on 3 and bring it outside like this, just to connect that up a little bit better. All right, now for this back part, we are going to make this intricate shape. It looks pretty interesting and I have no idea how to do this as of yet. It seems to me like there is some part here that is sticking out. If we look from the side, we can verify this. And well, there's a flat circular type area and then it's extended like so. So the way I see it is that this part is remaining kind of flat. So this entire area. But the part that is connected to this outside ring is going to move inward a little bit. So I'm going to select all of this, G and Y, S and X. Feel like this is the correct shape, at least starting to get there. This one is slightly more outwards than the rest, so G and Y. So I'm going to take this part and slide it down until we reach a part where we get shading issues. So let's see, right over here. Just bring it down like so. This seems to be the correct shape that I'm seeing in the reference. And now we need to work on this bottom side. I think we can select this at first, S and Y and 0. And I'm going to select this part right here and loop slide it slightly to the left. And that will make the transition less harsh. So I'm going to select this as well, GG. And this kind of flows over a little bit more naturally. And in theory now, if we turn this into a circular type shape, this one, S and X, let's also select this to keep our topology a bit more clean, S and X. And now we have this circular shape. And I feel like this should be rotated outwards, like so, and brought inwards like this. I think we got a bit too much on this side, so it should probably be only this part. R and X, I'm going to loop tools flatten this, and this part should be straight, so SE 0, and bring it up a notch, and I feel like it is sloping inwards just a little bit. So I'm going to take this, GG, G and Y, have it slope inwards just a little bit, and then I will select this entire loop, the circular type shape, so to speak. Shift E to make this slightly harsher. So select these two, S and X. Have it be a bit more circular. It's starting to deliver us with some problems here. I'm going to bring it out. And select all these creased areas again. Make it slightly less until it looks a bit more like we can bevel it. Okay, so we just beveled that, and now we have the circular type shape on the bottom here, but it's turning out flat on the top, which is what we got right there. This part seems to be flowing over correctly, could be smoothed out here a little bit. So if we take this area, this one and this one, so this one and this one, GG, let's move it up. Very good. And now it's still circular, it's flowing over into this area. This part is flat and slightly going inside as we see in the reference. Maybe we have to bring this down a little bit, and this one as well. Ever so slightly. To keep the natural flow going. There are two options. We can add this one, but you will see some shading artifacts. I don't care about the backside, by the way, I only care about this. There will be some shading artifacts right there. So maybe if we just use the smooth tool, that will solve the problem. And then we get this part and this part, which are slightly lifted up as compared to the rest. We're going to move that down a little bit. Select this entire area, loop tools, relax. Then let's smooth it out a little bit. And now we're starting to get to a point where I'm like, yeah, this is beginning to work. GG, let's slide this over. Let's also slide this one slightly upwards. And this one also slightly upwards in order to keep the natural edge flow a bit more coherent. And now aside from this part right here, with this edge, let's dissolve it. Yeah, I think the dissolve will simply fix all our problems right here. Not the most perfect topology, also not the worst, especially since we now have this shape. I do feel like since this one is sticking out a bit more as compared to this one, we are getting some shading artifacts. So I'm simply going to move that around, this one as well. Should have done that at the same time, by the way. And then I will take all of this, hold Control, click on all of that, and smooth it out just a little bit. Oh, without this area, by the way. All right. So now I'm going to take this and slide it a bit more over here and over there. And that looks a lot better. Same for this one. First over here and then over there. So I feel like this part is now correct. We have this circular type shape which ends in a flat part. This is the sticking out part over here. I think that is correct. It is smoothly going over into it, starting from over here and over there. And I think this is the final shape. So let's turn back on the original model. And this is what it's going to be. Let's have a look at it with some colors. I already added some black colors in between just to get a general idea of what this will look like. I think that is completely fine. We're now going to do this part. I want everything else to be removed for now. So I'm going into the original model, just remove it all except for this. And until we only have M original model. Apply the mirror, Control A. Now we have everything here, merged by distance, nothing got removed, so that is perfectly fine. So let's just add a loop cut right over there. GG and slide it. And I think we can maybe get away with a small knife cut right there. So it's ending up straight. So this one, C and then Y, that will keep it straight. Enter. And now we have this line completely that is following along a bit more nicely with this curve. Can maybe shift it over just a little bit. There you go. Yeah, that looks fine. Let's click on 7. And now we're going to take this, and this. Let's do like 3 over here, 3 over here. Going to Loop Tools and Relax. That will turn it into a shape that looks like this. And it's also sort of destroying the edge flow here. So let's just simply select this and do it by hand. GG, GG. Make sure that everything is still following some proper type of edge flow. So like this, like so. Okay, and now we have that curved area in there. Honestly, I don't want to do it for the other side, so for now, I'm simply going to do this. Bring the mirror back, bring it on top, and enable clipping. Okay. So now we do have this area with a curve in it. And let's see, what is that supposed to look like? It's just more flat than the rest. Basically, if we bring this upward, SC0, then we should get the effect. Let's pronounce it a little bit by selecting all of these and giving it a small bevel. All right, I think that is correct. I'm going to select loops, loop in a region. Okay. I'm going to select all of it again. So this part, this area, that area, and just bring it up ever so slightly, G and C, just to pronounce the effect a little bit more. And now we do have this cool looking shape in there, which is supposed to be there. All right, pretty simple stuff and also pretty hard stuff. So time for the knife cut. Let's apply the mirror. Very good. And let's do a knife cut right here. So let's start with K. Let's click here, CX. It's going to be locked into that axis. Simply going to press enter for now. Press K, select this line. Let's move this one all the way over here. C and X. And perhaps we can move a bit to the side so we can actually see what we're doing. Over there. Okay. think this should work out fine. I'm going to roll with it. And it's probably like over here, right? Not entirely sure. Let's have a look. Yeah, it's kind of stopping on the side here where we lifted things up. So it should stop somewhere over there. Okay. All right. In theory, if we now select this and rip it using V, then we now have an area, G and Y, just a little bit, that should be completely separated from the rest. And that is the case. Selecting this top area now, which is ripped, we can give it a new bevel, Control B. So what I think the process should be right now would be to slide this over like this, turn on the auto merge function, and now it should all be connected together. We can slide it some more, like right over there. And now that gives us the general shape for this area already. So let's just move it along. And don't mind if the topology here is a bit incorrect, because it's not going to be a big problem for us. I'm going to slide this over here, this one over there, and this one over here. Let's make sure that this is straight, SY, SX 0. So I feel like that should be the case. Let's have a look. This one can move to the side. This one can move over here. This one can probably move over there. It's going to be an iffy one. Maybe we're going to have to fix this later on, because this is a pretty odd one. We'll see. Then let's select all of this, GG. Let's move it up. Then let's take this, move it, this one, and that one. And now the way I see it is if we delete all of this, like so, we forgot about this part. Okay, so let's fix that up real quickly. Okay, so let's select all of this and all of this. Keep this unselected. Everything that should have topology should stay. And delete those faces. All right, so now we have the general shape of this part going on already. Let's start by clicking on tree, Alt-C, click on tree, select the entire middle bottom half. Let's mirror this over to the bottom half. Oh, okay, so that's going to be the Z-axis. I'm not sure why it's not linked up. Something here is odd. SC0. Let's set the clipping on top of the subdivision. Let's place it right there. This shouldn't mess. SC0, GZ. This shouldn't mess with our model. Also not entirely sure about this pole right here. We can always slide it on later. We're going to do that later. I don't want to change any topology here. That might be crucial for a later stage. Okay, so we got the bottom half now fixed in the exact same manner. All right, so I just spent a couple of hours trying to figure out how to make this backside. As you remember, we had already ripped this apart, and now we are struggling creating this area. And I think this is starting to look pretty good, but I think we can also do a lot better. So what I'm going to do is remove this entire part. So what I did is I selected everything that is part of the ripped area of this second part, and I'm going to hide it. And we're simply going to start over because this part right here, where the circular shape is having an angle as well, moving over here, things are different again right here. And then it's moving over into this area. It's easier to start from a circle and then turn it into a square than the other way around, unfortunately. So the way I found this to work is to simply bring in a circle. I'm going to scale it down, RY90, and I'm going to place it right here. Set it to median point. I'm going to place it right here. So we're going to scale this up from the side until it is reasonably at the location where we want it to be. So something like this. Now I'm going to click on 7. And I'm going to click on 1, Alt-C, make sure that we can see through it, and delete everything over here. Now this is still too tall, so the way we fix this is simply by pressing S and Y, and it's not going to be completely circular, it's going to be a different type of shape, and I think that's completely fine. So now we get this general shape going on here, and I'm going to place this exactly on this area, and I'm going to press E and X and move it to the side. Right over here in the middle. Going to take everything, bring it slightly over here, slightly over there. Take this area, E, and we're going to follow this part of the mesh now. And I'm going to place it right here. Then once again, I'm going to press E and extrude it out like this. So now we have this entire area blocked out. But how can we actually get these circular type shapes going for us? Well, I'm going to click on Edit Mode and add some loop cuts. Now, if you do it like this, it's quite hard to line them all up. And you could try, I think something over here. It's just not going to work out for every single one of them, which I think is annoying. So I'm going to do it by hand. I'm simply going to bring a loop cut right here, then a loop cut right there. Do the same over here and the same over there. And in this fashion, we're just going to move over this entire object. Control R, like this, like so. And just do it for every single one of those lines. Like this. And like that. This one is a specific case. We're going to Control B this, like so. Make sure it's following the width of this. I'm going to place another loop cut, place it right there. Don't worry about the perspective. Place it right there. This one is also different, so I'm going to place one right here by Control Being. Being like a control. You want to control B. You want to control being. Let's add some more loop cuts and finish this off, like so. There you go. This one, and finally this place right here. So before we continue, this part is stretched out further than the rest. And if we want to make this look exactly like the reference, then we're going to have to fix that issue. So in order to do that, I'm simply going to select all of these, and this one as well, and this one as well. So I'm going to press E and Y and bring this all the way over there, like so. So now for the tough part, we need to select all of these, like so, and separate them. And I will explain to you why we do that. Let's separate these. P, separate the selection. You see, if we select the original one like this, the trick that we're going to be using is a trick where we're going to bring this out, then we're going to select this and that, and then we're going to Loop Tools, Curve, and it's going to have curvature like this. But let me show you what happens if we have a circle like this. And I'm just going to recreate it real quickly, simply to make the point. Delete it. And then we get this part. All right, we add some of those, cool. And now we have this. So let's say that we want to stretch this out. I'm going to select this one, and select this one, and then turn it into a curve. curve. Now it's also going to mess with all the other topology that's going around here. And I've found no way in order to counteract this. So the best way is simply to select everything that we've got and make sure that you get the correct ones, this. And then we're going to press Alt-E, extrude these normals just a little bit, not too much. And now we have to do the tedious work. We're going to select all the middle ones first, like this one. There you go, for this, for that, all of them, like this. And I think it's this line. Okay, click on 7, arbitrarily place the 3D cursor at the end point of one of these. Doesn't matter where it is, just somewhere where you think, ah, that's where it is. Okay, and now we're going to set the pivot point, the 3D cursor, as Y0. And now we basically have straight lines going straight over there. All different sizes for these. And that is a good part. If you were to do this with Alt-E, for example, entirely, so this one and this one. Now, you might get it to work for this area right here, but you're definitely not going to reach the endpoint for this area. So this is a crucial method. Okay, so now we're going to make the selection. Don't select this one, select these. Select these ones, like so. This one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. Then let's do the same for the bottom side. Not the ultimate bottom one, but the one below that. So I think it's this one for what we need. Then we take this, 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 and just continue on our path here. Then select all of these middle ones that we just extruded. Loop tools, curve. All right, so this one was not correct. Okay, so let's go back. Let's deselect these. And let's select this one. There you go. I think this is the closest that we're going to get. All right, so as you can see, we have now got all of these, and if we click on 7, they are all extruded to the correct area. That is exactly what we needed. But now what we need to do is make sure that all of this gets connected. So there's one thing that I forgot here. We made it slightly too large. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller for all of those, because I want this to go upwards a little bit and then be on the same line as this one. So we're basically just going to fill it out again. So now let's connect all of this together. Let's click on A and merge by distance. That should remove a bunch of vertices. And if we now turn on our subdivision, some parts have some struggles. And I'm not sure why this is. There is no apparent reason as to why this should be the case. For now, I'm just going to delete the inside of all of these. And that should solve the problem, at least for a moment here. I do think something is odd with this area. Let's go back a bunch. Yeah. So what's going on here? I believe the problem is that these ones are too close, so that when we do the merge, it's basically just going to remove it, giving us all kinds of issues. So let's turn this off for now. Let's have a look at these ones. Yeah, there's some messed up topology here. That is going to give us troubles. Not sure why this one is being so hard on us. Let's just delete the faces. Let's delete this face and this face. What's going on here, bro? Yeah, so this one has issues, to say the least. And I think it's due to this topology not being completely correct. So we have to correct it before moving on to the next stage. Okay, so let's undo that. I'm going to select this same type of plane for all three, G and Z, and bring it up. Then take the lines from these, GG, and make sure that we get a straight line right here. This should solve the problem. Let's turn on the subdivision. Let's go ahead and merge by distance. 522 removed. This looks pretty good now, but we still get this issue right here. To be honest, we have that with all of them. But if we delete those faces, that should make it look a bit more clean. Okay, so now you can select all of these bottom lines. Make sure not to get these. We don't need that one. We're going to select only the bottom row. And what we're going to do is click on 3, E and Z, until we can see that it's the exact same height as the other part, like this. Then I'm going to click on 7, press E and Y, and we're going to move this down like so, until it's pretty much aligning, at least at some places already. Then we're going to simply move individual vertices, like this, on the Y-axis. G and Y, make sure it's aligning. We're basically just reconstructing the initial shape again, like so, where we get the crease. Like so. Okay. So now that area is built, and we can always make adjustments to the size of this, simply by pressing S and C, for example. Sure, it's going to mess a little bit with the curvature, but it's going to be unnoticeable. S and C. Because I do want this to be slightly higher, like so. Just like the original. Now, if we want to make this a bit more like so, then all we need to do is click on Alt-C, look through this, select all of these, and delete it. That's all there is to it. Let's do that for all of those. Because now we have non-manifold edges, which means that they are going to be intersecting, creating weird artifacts. But if we click on the removal button, just X, and the problem is that these are constantly in a different orientation. No matter what we do, one of these is wrong. So let's select it. All of these, just hold Control and Shift. Shift N inside. Now take everything, Shift N, okay, Control plus, Shift N inside. Okay, so now everything is the same. So in order to solve all of this weird jaggedness, we're going to add a bevel and bring it on top of the subdivision surface modifier. And that should make everything a bit harsher, but also a bit better. So we can increase the amount. You can always play around with the angle. Like this until it is completely perfect. Let's click on 7. Let's go over here. Let's take this entire area. I kind of forgot about this area. We should have done that earlier. But now that we already got everything, I guess all we can do now is simply take this, G and Y it. But before we do that, make sure that there's enough geometry to justify it. Right over here. Loop tools, curve. And this one should be moved back to its original position somewhere over here, G and Y. So it's not completely perfect, but it's approximately 10 times better than what I tried before. And if you want to see the other renditions of this, there you go. So it used to look like this entire area, but now we actually have something that looks pretty good. But of course we need to finish it. So let's go right over here, delete all of these faces. G and Y. Just going to solve this with some manual work, like so. Press F. Same for this part, press F and press F. And now we should have everything lined up again. It seems to be slightly lower than the rest. So I'm going to place the 3D cursor on here, select all of this, set the pivot point to 3D cursor SC0, and that should make it straight. All right, so we got that solved. Cool. 7. Now let's select all of these edges. Let's make sure that they are straight first. Medium point, SY0. And I'm going to extrude this right over there. Take this and simply play the same game again. I'm going to have this follow the curvature. E. Let's extrude this all the way over here. Take this part, G and X. Take this part, G and X. And that should, technically speaking, solve the problem. Not entirely there. And I'm not sure why. Like, what is this? What is this even? Alright, so there's this disconnected part here for some reason. Just select that, just delete it. Like so. Cool. Now for the final part, I'm going to add a loop cut right here. And I'm going to press K and have it go all the way over here. So if we want to get rid of those triangles, then we have this face. This is a triangle. This is a triangle. Let's remove all of this for a second. Cool, so we can fill this up. This is now a square. And then we can simply follow up with this one, like so. I want to keep this square-ish. So let's see, what do we have here? There's a triangle, let's remove that. These two can be connected, merge at last, like so. And perhaps we can just simply take this one. So now we have this odd square right here. Could perhaps clean it up a little bit, like so. Okay. And now we can select all of this. Let's make sure that all of this is straight as well. SY0. And I think this is supposed to be a better curve. Perhaps if we move it a bit like this, take all of this, relax. There you go, that's a curve shape. Take all of this, it's a bit too thick. It's a bit too thick. Right there, so let's slide it over. And let's make sure that they are following like the same type of pattern as we have over here. Something like this. What's going on here? It's not following through. We actually want this one to be connected with this one. So something is going wrong again. What is it? This one should be continuing into this one. That's the way I see it. So in theory, if we connect this up, then we have that line. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's just a square. Cool. So let's select all of this. Let's make sure it's slightly better. Deselect all of that. And let's press E and bring it up. It's way too much. Just a little bit is enough. Yeah, cool. That looks a whole lot better. A bit more like the reference. And we can also have this go down a little bit so we don't have this cubist square. So we can just move this along here. A little bit like this. in order to have it start with a sloping angle a bit more. What I do feel like is that we should take all of this part, and slide it out just a little bit. Just a little bit. Like so. I think that is more true to the reference. Okay, I'm back. I took my break. Actually, it's the next day. So we're going to improve this model. We're going to make sure that it is closed up on the side. We do have some weird areas over here that probably should be closed. The best case scenario would probably be to close this entire area up so we don't have these weird open parts here anymore. And we are going to do that simply by pressing on dash. So everything is selected here. And perhaps we can make a very simple structure that allows us to close all of this in a meaningful manner. Now, it is the same on the top as it is on the bottom. So in theory, this shouldn't take too much time. I think if we press F here, then select this line and press F all the way around, then we're probably going to do it very fast. Until right over here, apparently. Not sure what's going on here. Okay. It seems like a part is broken. How about we also delete these two faces so we can start a bit more fresh. Okay, so in theory, if we now select this one, press F, and this one, press F, we can probably do the same over here. Press F and press F. And now we have this odd part because it has a movement towards the left and right side, which means that this is not connected properly, but we can simply by selecting this one and pressing merge at last. We could probably do the same for this, merge at last, but it's going to move everything over. So we definitely don't want to do that. In theory, if we just take this, so let's remove this. Let's see if there's a more meaningful way to patch this up, because this one is not even necessary the way I view it. This is just an extra loop cut. I don't know how this got here actually, but we're just going to remove it. So let's press F for this one. And now we have these two, which are also kind of useless. So I'm going to select those two faces and remove it. And I think we can select this part and simply close it like this. We probably have to add a bunch of loop cuts right here later on in order to connect the rest of this. But we'll see. We got a part right here which can be connected with this area. It's not completely filled up. So let me turn off the subdivision surface modifier because I think we're doing something wrong here. Let's delete those faces. What are we actually looking at here? I think it is because this one should have an extra face. And do keep in mind, this part doesn't necessarily have to be the most perfect part because it's going to be blocked by everything else anyways. Although I'm not a big fan of what's going on right here. Definitely not a big fan. Let's see what would happen if we turn on this bevel. All right, so that is going to solve a lot of the problems we have there. Actually, what I'm going to do, so I'm just going to have this be an edge that is not connected. I'm just going to press F here, and this part is not going to be connected to that part. And I don't think that that is going to be a problem. If it is, I can simply add a loop cut anyways right over here. I don't think it messes with our shading or our structure. Let's verify this. Yeah, it doesn't really do anything at all. Merge at last. All right. So let's select this line and this line right now and close that up. All right, so that part is now closed. Let's also do the same for this side. Shouldn't be too much work. I think for some reason this side is a bit cleaner. If we start from this point right here, select the point on the bottom side. So this one, press F. And that should solve our problems. I think if we now press F the entire time, then at least until here, we shouldn't have any issues. And that is the case. Now what we could do is count these. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 of them. So let's add 9 loop cuts right here. Press and add 9 of those. And if we now select all of these and keep on moving, so merge at last, merge at last, merge at last, then this should be connected up. Good enough. There you go. So now that's all closed off and we don't have to deal with that problem anymore. So at least if you look at it from the side and places like over here right now, then it should all be fixed. I think that's the case. I also think that there are parts where it's not that beautiful. So if we turn this bevel off, we have this area right here, which is turned into some type of multiple square scenario. I'm going to click on dash, and perhaps it would be nice to fix this. So let's just go over here. And let's see, what's the problem here? Edges. Let's delete these edges. I think we're just missing like one vertex that should be going somewhere over there. If we just do this, in theory, this should solve the problem. Whoop, got the wrong one selected. Press F. So in order to patch this up, let's turn off the subdivision surface modifier. Let's have a look here. Theoretically, we want to have, once again, the same amount. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10. And if we now do this, then we can close this up. And let's just do it like so. Now it's entering through the mesh, so we should probably make some adjustments here. I'm not going to care too much about it. All right, so let's select this area, fill it up all the way down. Like so. And there you go. Not the perfect shape here, and I think we can solve that simply by loop tools relaxing this. Loop tools relax, maybe like 3 times. And that indeed solves the problem. I'm not entirely sure about this bottom area. Perhaps it could be brought up a little bit. Like, maybe something like this. Yeah, I think that looks a bit more natural. I'm going to do a similar thing for the other side. Something like this. Just play around with that shape a little bit. And now I think we have solved that issue. And it's closed on the inside, which is nice. So now that it's closed off, we can start working on the front where we have to add some lenses. So let's do that straight away. It's pretty easy. We're going to take this part and we're going to do a grid fill. And it seems to not want to do that because we don't have enough geometry. We have 45. We should actually have an even number. I think over here, there's an extra part of geometry that we don't really need. Not entirely sure. I'm just going to dissolve these edges. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on grid fill. I'll press I. I'll bring it right in there. G and Y just a little bit, like so. Maybe scale it just a little as well. And then bring it inside with E. And like this, because I think that the lenses are situated somewhere over here. And we also see that the bevel is affecting the way this looks. In this case, we don't want the bevel to be over there. And the limit method can be set to weight. And now we can give all of these edges a specific weight. So this one, for example, if we press on N now, we open up this panel and go to item, we have a mean bevel weight for the edges and vertices. So make sure that you're in edges. Something like this. And that makes it a bunch sharper. We can play around with it like so. There you go. But now this part is not sharp. And that was the entire goal. Because if we were to increase this bevel weight, then we would get this harsh edge. We don't need that. I don't see that in the reference here. So I'm going to keep it like this. Okay, so for this one, we could also just give it its glass, which is this one. So I'm going into the material, we'll click assign for this, add a glass BSDF, assign it. I'm immediately just going to make it 1.45, which is normal for glass, and bring the roughness down. If you look in render mode right now, you're probably going to see some type of glass. Now, of course, we can improve this, but for now, I'm going to remove it. Okay, so now we can work on the front side. And in order to do that effectively, we're going to remove everything else that's not part of it. And I'm also going to make sure that we don't have anything that I don't need. So basically all of this. H, hide it. Seems to me like we should just select this part, press I, turn it into a circle, scale it down until it fits the bill. Since it's flat, we're not going to be bothered too much by this area right here. It's also not the cleanest looking topology. Of course, we could clean that up, but I don't think it's necessary for what we are trying to do here. I'm going to take my picture right here, keep it by my side. And let's see. Seems to be going inward straight away. Like this. And I feel like it's scaled a little bit. So you get this chamfered edge. I'm going to extrude it again inside. Once again, scale it down a little bit. Shouldn't go that far, maybe somewhere over here. And from this point onward, the lens is going to be created. So first let's press I and scale it down. Then let's bring it outside and just follow the reference. This is pretty easy stuff. Everybody should be able to do this by themselves. Okay, press I, scale it. And it's probably looking something like this. Like so, press I, scale it, G and Y. Press I, scale it down, E, bring it in, scale it just a little bit. And now here we need some type of lens. We're going to make that separately. So cursor to selected. And let's add a UV sphere, I believe. No, the best option in general is to turn a cube into a sphere. Let's first add a couple of loop cuts, like right over here, right over there, 4 for each side. And now that we have this, you have to go into edit mode. And then right here, there is a button called to sphere. So let's select this, to sphere. And then if you select everything and drag your left mouse outwards, it will turn this into a sphere. Okay, so let's click on one. Let's remove this entire bottom part. Faces, let's make this straight. As a matter of fact, let's just select this. And now let's give it a subdivision, shade it smooth. I'm going to place this with selection to cursor on the correct axis. RX90, let's scale this down. Let's have a look at what we're doing. Alt C, and let's just scale it until it fits right in there. Of course it's going to stick out massively. So we're going to S and Y this, G and Y, until we get a lens shape that kind of fits the bill. Let's see, G and Y, can go a little bit further. Shouldn't stick out of the glass. Why use a cube to turn into a sphere? Well, when you use a normal sphere, you get a pole, and that pole might deliver shading issues. It's not going to be very visible. I have used UV spheres before, But using a cube for this is just a slightly more clean method in order to keep your topology fresh. Two more things. We have some type of flashlight going in here. We're going to make that last. We're first going to do the other sphere. Let's go into edit mode. Let's now select all of this. Let's press I. Let's turn this into a circle. Scale it down. And we probably want it to be the approximate same size as the other circle, right? So I'm just going to do this very sketchy method right here. And of course you can also copy it over, but who cares? Alt-C, let's make sure it's placed in the correct location. I think that will be starting from over here. G and C, G and X. So I'm just going to place it in the exact same line as the other sphere. And this is just a sketchy method to do that. I feel like this is going outwards first instead of going in. So I'm going to bring this out and then I'm going to scale that in. I'm going to press I and S. I'm going to bring that out just a little bit like so. Press I and S. Press E, maybe scale it in just a little bit. And then we have an extrusion. So let's press I, S. This is going inside. I, S, and then E. Bring this inside with a chamfer. Let's press 1. Maybe we can make it slightly more accurate. I think then it's coming out again, just a little bit. Scale it up just a little bit. E, E, S, E. Let's just bring it inside here. Cool. So now we need another one of those spheres. So let's just take that. Shift the X to bring it over to the side. Let's make sure it's fitting exactly where it's supposed to go. Maybe it's a little bit smaller. We're also going to change the angle of this a little bit because we do have some more space. So S and Y, fit this in there some more because we have some extra space here. So for this one, I'm going to make it slightly more globular. I'm also going to give the sphere some type of glass. There are no double dielectrics in Blender. Technically speaking, if you were to look at glass through glass, it should do something funky. Blender doesn't do that. So the way to solve that actually most of the time is simply by playing around with the sliders until it looks good. I know, very boring, but it is what it is. So let's do this, glass. Let's bring the roughness down, let's play around with this a little bit. And this one also has a pretty high roughness. Let's bring that down. And let's just play around with this for a little while. And it's not that important. There you go. Of course, there are some more textures inside of this. We're going to fix that later, obviously. But now, let's go ahead and make the final strip. I'm not sure what that is. Let me go over here. Yeah, it's some little type of blue light. I'm not really sure if that is actually baked in there or if it's just a sticker or something. We have some kind of impossible geometry to work with here in order to make a shape like this. There are a bunch of options. I mean, this is flat anyways. Now I'm actually just going to try something pretty unorthodox here. But since all of these lines are moving in a weird fashion, we're just going to scale them down. We're just going to GG them down. GG them down. Like this. GG. That should make it a bit more square in general. What I'm thinking is, what if we just place a circle right over here? I know, crazy idea. Circle 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I guess. Like 6. Let's scale it down. RX 90. Let's bring it right over there. I'll take this, bring it to the side. Take that, bring it to the side. Take these two, make it a bit more logical. Like somewhere over here. And then I'm just kind of gonna try and make it a bridge edge loops. I know what you're thinking right now. Has the Blender Ender lost its mind? Well, honestly, yes. But since it's a flat surface, guys, the topology doesn't matter nearly as much as you might think it does. All right, so are we just going to roll with this? I think we are. I think we just might. So I'm going to bring this inside with E and Y, and then I'm going to simply press F and press I. Okay, and now maybe at maximum what we can do is like play around with these in order to get to the desired shape. I think it's a bit more like this. And I'm even just going to select the outer ring, like so, and bevel this. Let's add a new material. Let's make it that bluish type tone just for reference. There you go. Shift E, by the way. If your subdivision is messing with things like this and it's just going inside somewhere, just press Shift E. So that concludes, ladies and gentlemen, the top part here. So we have actually finished this complete area and it looks very intricate, very detailed. We have the crease in here. Maybe you don't like that you can see stuff through it. Well, in that case, we can just add some more plastic material underneath there later on. We'll figure that out. We have the front side with the lenses, the circles in there. We have some sketchy methods to do that. We have the side area with this weird looking part going inside and nobody understood how that worked, but we managed to get it done. It's all connected nicely towards this rotating gimbal-like feature with a weird looking button and some type of circular shape that's going over into a flat shape right here. And that is part of the ultimate structure that is holding this camera. And I don't know about you, but I'm starting to get pretty excited. It looks very cool already. I think if I were to light it right now, just only the head like this, and I would just make a cool render out of it, that would definitely work out already. But we're not there yet. We're going to create the rest of this model, and there's still a pretty tough part to go. Not necessarily because the general shape is hard, but because there are a lot of details here that we need to take into account. And in this case, they're all squarish. So if I had to give a small recap, here everything was circular. Even this square was made with a circle. Everything was made with a circle except for the circle, which was made with a square. I hope that all makes sense, but all of these circular shapes were pretty hard to create. Now for the next part, we're actually going to do a lot of rectangular shapes, square shapes. So that's going to be pretty interesting as well. Stick around with me, we're going to finish this model pretty quickly. I will see you after the sponsorship break. Buy my course. All right, so I'm going to continue creating this model. Well, we're entering the final stage where we're finally going to create this part right here. And luckily we already have the outline. Now there are a bunch of complex situations here that I'm going to explain step by step. Let's open this up. We have our 3. And as you can see, it is moving like so and then going inside. And following this general shape, this turns into a circle eventually. Now, the simplest way to do this is simply by selecting all of this, going into edit mode, selecting this entire line, but make sure to click on 3 as well, and remove everything that is not necessary here, because we're trying to follow this outline. Okay, so now we have this part. Very good. And we're also going to do the same for this part. And then I'm going to press Shift D, P, separate the selection. And now we have this part and this part. We're going to Control J that. It's now part of the same thing. Press M and merge by distance. That should remove 2 vertices, namely the ones over here. So now we already have the outline for this entire model. Technically speaking, if we were to just click on 3, go into edit mode and E, we now have a very decent way to start here. So we can move it up like so. And then we're going to press Shift right click in order to get the 3D cursor right there. Let's scale it on the 3D cursor axis. S and Y, this will now remain in the same position. And I'm just going to place it right over there. Maybe even rotate it a little bit like so. Until we get the general shape on the top here going for us. As you can see, there's actually something ripped right here. So the best way to follow along with this is to simply select this edge right here and this edge right there, press V, then press L on this one, P, separate the selection. Let's select this part and we're going to connect these two together, like so. Press F, click on 3, And let's see, Alt C. Seems to me like this is going to work out. So let's take this and this one, click on 3. Alt C. And if we now move this, something is going wrong here. And merge by distance. Okay, so that was wrong. We're going to select this and move this over just a little bit like so. Let's have a look at the amount that we have right here. We have 23 vertices. Technically speaking, I want to add like 3 more, and this will give us a even number. I like that. Let's select this entire edge loop, cursor to selected. Let's add a circle and make sure that we know exactly that it's 26. Circle 26 like this. Scale it down, G and Z, bring it up. And it should be exactly in the middle of this area. So I'm going to select it, Shift S, cursor to selected, selection to cursor, and now that is completely in the middle. And I also want it to be bigger. It should be approximately the same size. It seems like it's not completely centered here. I'm not entirely sure why that's the case. Oh, we scaled this outward here a little bit. So I guess the more clean option right here would be to select the middle of the curve and do the same on the other side. And then place the 3D cursor right there. Then this one, Shift S, selection to cursor, G and Z. And now it should be the exact type of circle shape that we're looking for. We can move it a little bit on the Y-axis, like so. G and Y, this seems to be a bit more correct. And in theory, if we now connect these two together and bridge these edge loops, then we should have the general shape. I think that is the case. Now obviously this could be a little bit harsher. We could add a bevel here later on, and then it will look like this. And that's kind of close to what the reference is showing us, but I don't think that this curve is aligning quite perfectly just yet. So we're going to have to make some adjustments here. Alt C, 1, and let's just move these until we get the curve shape that we're looking for. So right over here, like this. And go for there. This one can be brought down a little bit, like so. Right over here. I think that makes a bit more sense, and if we were to bevel this right now, you can probably see that this is the correct shape that we're going for. I'm not going to bevel this just yet, but do know that we're probably going to do that in the future. In the worst case scenario, we can always select all of these and remove it again. For now, I'm just going to take it and I will add a bevel, and I will set this to weight, and I will set the weight on this to 1 and decrease the amount until it looks like this. So in that fashion, we are not actually destroying the mesh, we're just using a bevel in order to simulate the very same effect. And that looks pretty good. Let's have a look from the front view. That also looks correct to me, actually. So we already created this. I'm going to start from scratch again from this part right here. So I'm going to select both of these objects, go into edit mode. I will select this entire area, like so. And I will also select this entire area from the other side. So this part right over here. And go all the way down and select it. Shift D, P, separate the selection. Now I'm going to select both of these. I will Control J, so now they are together. I will press A in edit mode and merge by distance. This will remove 2 vertices, and that is correct. Now this is all one area. In order to close this up, there are a couple of different methods. So what we're going to do first is bring this over, click on 3, and we're now just going to extrude this outwards. I'm going to press E and Y, and this will move it over here. So I'm going to align it with the model like so. And here we have to do some manual adjustments for these lines right here. So let's click on 3, G and C, let's bring this up a bit. Let's rotate it on the X-axis and bring it right over there. Obviously, this doesn't look very good, so I'm going to take this and bring it in line with the rest. Something like this. Now we can also move some of these around and make sure that we have an area that is following the exact shape here. Let's select everything, Shift N, and make sure that the normals are in the right position. Now I'm going to press on 1 on the numpad, and I want to remove everything else for now, simply so we can see a little bit better what we're doing. Like this. Press 1. And we need this area right here. So what I'm going to do is bring in a circle with 16 vertices. I'm going to scale it down. I'm going to scale it down, bring it right over here, RX90, and make sure that we are following the reference. Make sure that it is placed in such a fashion so that the line where it becomes sharp and it loses its curvy nature is at this vertex, and the same goes for this one because this is moving straight ahead. So I'm going to select all of these and remove them, X vertices, and then I will add a mirror modifier. Mirror modifier. I'm going to select an object in order to place it on the other side, and it's going to be this one. I will select this vertex, E and X, and move it to the side. Make sure that clipping is turned on, G and X, and now it is completely in the middle. I'm going to apply the mirror, and then I'm going to take this, Shift D, SC -1, and that will flip it around, and I will bring it down so that it's following the rest of the model, just slightly over here. I'll select this, and press F. Now we do need some extra geometry, so right over here I'm going to add a couple of loop cuts until all of these are approximately the same size. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Same on the other side. 5, 6, like this. Let's do 2 over here, 2 over here, 2 over here, and 2 over here. Alright, so let's drag it to the front. Let's rotate it on the x-axis, like so. R and X. And just make sure that this is positioned correctly, like so. Alright, so let's connect these two together. Control J. And let's select all of these, press F until we've reached the entire end, like this. Let's do the same for the other side. There you go. Alright, so now we have this one connected. I might have to take all of these, just like so, and GG this in order to make it a more natural angle that we're working from. And we might also need to loop tools relax this just a little bit, a couple of times. Loop tools relax, and just once more. Let's set the power to 3. So that is going to make it a bit more smooth in the transition towards this area. Now we're going to fill this up. So let's select this and move all the way over here, press F. And we have a total of 1. And we have a total of 11 vertices that are unattended. So let's make sure to add those. 11. Let's select this part. Press F and have it continue all the way throughout. And in this way it is connected. And that also means that we can do the same over here. Press F. Add 11 vertices, like so. Add 11 edges, like this. Select all of this and grid fill. Alright, quite perfect at the first try. Very nice. So now we have this area, and we're going to make sure that this part has the same type of shape as we see over here. So I'm going to click on 1, and it seems to me as if it's slightly going inside and then has a flat area on the inside again. In theory, if we just press E and S, just scale this inside a little bit, and then we press E, Z, Z, E, Y, Y, let's bring it inside, scale it a little bit, E and S, like so, and then E again, and we can move this out, but it should be on a specific axis, and this is not completely perfect. But something like this. And then we're going to grid fill this, and we need to find the correct shape. So make sure that we have enough of the span, which in my opinion should probably be 11. And if we then move it around, then we have filled up this shape completely like the reference. It also has this entire area surrounding it, and it's moving over into the next part. Now, if you don't like this area, a technique that we can use is simply to slide this upward a little bit. So maybe, just maybe, this will be the correct way to finish this model off, like so. Very simple stuff. So now we need to make the hole right here where the screen is going to fit in. And now the question is this hole going all the way over here just to fit the screen in? My intuition says it probably does, but we can only see this area. In both cases, whatever you decide to do, whether it's just a square over here or a square completely going from over there, in both cases it will work out. For me, I'm just going to click on one, I'm going to press Alt-C, because I want to make sure that at the very least it's starting over here. And I'm just going to bring it up all the way over there. Then I'm going to press I and bring this in. And I believe if we now just slide this in here, it's going to be a bit too harsh. Let me verify this. It actually looks pretty good, but I think the corners are more rounded than what we are working with. So I'm going to add a vertex group. I'm going to assign this. I'm going to press Ctrl-I, make a new vertex group, and assign the rest to it. This way, if we want to select this area, we can simply select it like this. I'm going to select 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And 6 edges right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Do the same over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Loop tools, relax. And instead of cubic, we can use linear. And it seems to me like this is following the shape just a little bit better for the curvature. If we now select our group, we still have it selected, so that's a little bit easier. Going to bring it inside ever so slightly by pressing E. There you go. And now we do have the curvature that we also see right here in the model. That seems to me as if it's a bit more correct. It can move inwards just a little bit more, G and Y, because in the end I do think this is sort of sliding in there with some type of motion because it fits exactly. So I think something like this should probably do the trick. Very good. So now we have this entire area. It's pretty simple stuff actually. And we may need to make sure that this part is now aligning as well. There are two ways to do this. And the way I see it, this part is already located on a perfect location. Shift S, cursor to selected. And there are two methods. What we can try is simply set the pivot point, the 3D cursor, R and X, and rotate this in such a fashion, but it's going to be somewhat smaller, so it seems. So in order to solve that, we can press I, and now it should align quite perfectly with the rest. I think in theory, if we also add this one, that's going to make it a bit more sharp and align it better with the rest of the model. But we don't want to do that because now we're actually adding more geometry, which is going to mess with our shape right here. And we definitely don't want that to occur because it already looks pretty good. So the method to fix this would actually be, let's see if we can do it like this. Add a bevel, bring it on top of the subdivision. Let's set it to weight, and let's give this a mean bevel weight of 1. I'm going to select this entire outer line for that. Set the mean bevel weight to 1. Let's continue this process all the way over here. Mean bevel weight to 1. And that kind of makes sense. And it also kind of doesn't. So let's move over here. Let's select that area. And let's set the mean bevel weight to 1. And that makes a lot of sense to me. Cool. So let's do the same for the other side. Right over here until this part. Mean bevel weight to 1. And that should make this part sharp. We have some areas over here that are sharper, but the rest of the model is still looking kind of supreme. So in that fashion, we have now added this part together quite successfully. Then we need to bring back our original parts, like right over there, and also create the inside for this, so it can actually pop off. If we now remove it, you can see that it's empty, which is not great, but we're going to fix that later on. So we can open this up. Let's take this, and now we have to find a meaningful way in order to connect this. I'm going to start on the top. Let's have a look here, because if I just click on this, is there a way to fill this up in a smart manner? let's see, until we get this curvature going on, so like right over there, I think it's possible to just connect this up, add 11 loop cuts in here, 11, select this entire loop with this part, and this entire area, grid fill. Okay, so that's now closed up. Now let's have a look at this area, because that's going to be slightly harder. I'm also going to place this into its own backup. Let's have a look here. For these lines, all we have to do is simply press F a couple of times. Like this. And then I think we can do that one more time actually. Press F. Now for this side, it's probably just this. And then adding those 11 loop cuts, like so. Press A and merge by distance. Should remove 11 of them. I'm not sure why it's 26, I don't like that. 22. Nope, that doesn't make sense. Let's stop. Let's bring it right over here. Let's simply do the F method again. I trust that a little bit more in this case. There you go. It's so tempting to just press F here and be done with it. And let's see, what would be smart? I think it would be smart to simply connect these lines. Control F. Press F. And press F for this one as well. I think this makes a bit more sense. And then eventually we can simply merge these lines here together. So let's have a look at this. We need, what is it? 11 vertices, of course. 11. Same for this one. 11. Same for this one. Oh, same for this one. 11. All right. Does that make sense? It does. Press F. That's the good part here. We can just simply select all of this and press F. And the problem here, so it seems, is that we don't have this same amount of vertices on this area. Oh, I didn't think about that actually. And since we run into this problem, I have found a solution. There are multiple solutions, but I think the easiest one is very simple. It's just to add a grid fill. And that sounds kind of weird because right now this one is not meaningfully connected. It's just a triangle. But if you look over here and see if we get any issues with the shading, it is very minimal. We only get some issues because there's more topology over here. We can always decide to remove that. And I don't personally see anything that would stop me from having this weird topology right there. Now, if you really want to clean it up, there's also methods to do that. But I'm not going to be bothered with it if I don't see any problems. It's just going to cost extra time for nothing. I'm just going to roll with this, even though that might not seem like the best topology. But it's better to save time here than to waste time trying to optimize for something that you're not going to see. And I think this one can be moved inward ever so slightly. So it's not on the exact same axis as the other one, it's actually a little bit more thick. So let's now take this object right here. The way I see it is that if we just simply select this entire line right here, all the way over there, and do the same on the other side, like this, we should be able to use a bridge edge loops. That is the case. And I'm going to add a bunch of those until we get squares. Then I will select all of this and make sure that this is filled up as well. So let's select this, grid fill. It's not going to do that because we have uneven numbers. So let's undo all of this and let's simply count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 like this. I think that should be the case. So 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, like so. And now if we add a grid fill, it should be able to fill itself up, like so. We do get some weird shading issues over here, and that's because this is slightly moved inward as compared to the rest. We're going to take that and move it slightly outward, like this. Shade smooth. Looks pretty decent. It's not the most important part. We're going to do the same for the top. Let's add a grid fill. That's now filled up. I'm also going to press I to make it sharp, like so. And I will select this area all the way over here, like this. Press I, and let's bring this inside ever so slightly, like so. And press I just to smooth that out a little bit. All right. I can go inside a bit further. I think it needs to make some space for this thing to click in, right? And then somewhere over here I saw a object. I think something like this should be the trick. I'm going to press E, I, S and Z and have this stick out a little bit. Just a little bit. I and E. Let's bring it inside, but it's supposed to be square. So I'm going to select this. I'm going to turn this into a square by selecting all of these edges right over here. Let's turn the subdivision on and we can add a bevel. Let's bring it all the way to the top. Let's set it to weight. And now I'm going to increase the mean bevel weight to 1 for this one. Okay, so that should make it more of a square. And we can also add some more geometry here and there and here and on the inside, and then select all the inner parts and press I. Cool. So now we have this square part as well, where some, I think, loading electricity pins are going to be sticking out from. We're going to check that later. So I'm going to take all of this, move it along this axis all the way up top and increase the bevel weight to 1. And that should make it sharp. That is the case. And we should do so for the back side and the other side as well. Let's make that 1. All right, so the final thing for this part is to select this line and make sure that we have the bevel with the bevel weight and just set it to a higher number, and that will make it sharper. And we're also going to do that for this area, just this line, and add a bevel weight here, and that will make it sharper. And that makes sure that everything is aligned perfectly, except for the bottom one, which is the last one that we should fix. All right, so now we are going to finish this model here, because if you look at the lines here, it is not aligning quite properly with each other. And I want this to be pretty slick and smooth, just like we see in the reference. So let's click on the dashboard and let's do a very simple close right here, because it's actually not that hard. We're going to select all of this, press F, until we reach this area right here, and then we're going to do the same for this one and make sure that we have enough lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There you go, just like this. And we're simply going to connect those together, merge at last. For all of these. I think we missed one. Okay. Not sure how that happened. So let's remove these. I missed this one. So there's actually 9. So let's add 9 of those. Type it. And let's just simply connect this up like so. And let's do the same on the other side. Should be the same amount, so nothing crazy here. And it seems like it's not the same amount. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so that's odd. 7. Okay, so there are less vertices over here. Interesting problems we always have to deal with. For me, I'm just going to do a grid fill. This is not a very important part, so I'm just going to simply leave it like this. Okay, now let's add some loop cuts right over here. Maybe a bunch of them, like 3 or something. Let's click on dash to see if everything is starting to align properly. Let's also make sure that we have the entire outer edge selected and add a bevel modifier. We're going to bring this on top, set it to weight and increase the weight right here to 1. And maybe a bit more of those segments. Like this. And it's still not aligning properly, and that is because of this area right here. So if we click on dash, we should click on those, click on 3, click on dash, set this to 1, and that should align everything perfectly. Now, I'm not a big fan of the spacing between all of these, so I'm simply going to slide this down a little bit, slide that one down a little bit, and do that for all of those, just until we get better shading over there. And that is the case. Let's also make sure to select this part, set the creasing on the edge data to 1. And now that seems to me as if it is perfect. It's just like the reference. So let's add that hole. Let's click on 3, Alt C, it's right over there. So let's select like this entire area. So let's select this entire area and also make sure, that's a good question actually, if this is also on the other side. I'm not entirely sure. So let's have a look at this. And yes, it's also on the other side. So let's make sure to click on 3 and select the very same parts on the other side, just like this, until they light up a bit more orange, like so. That means we have multiple selected. There you go. Press I. Let's bring this down. Let's click on delete faces, because I think this is flat, right? So we can probably get away with a very simple version of this. I'm going to delete those faces. Let's have a look. We have 16 edges, so I'm going to Shift S cursor to select it. Let's add a circle with 16 vertices. I'm going to RX90, RY90, RZ90. Scale this down, click on 3. Let's play around with these vertices. Let's just slide them up a little bit. Alt C, G and C, just improve the flow here a little bit. Make sure to do it for both sides. GG. G and Z, so something like this, G and Z. And over here as well, this one, G and Z. There you go. I think here we can have a little bit more space, just bringing this up a little bit. This one as well, and then this one as well, G and C, like so. Now we could shape this entire hole simply by moving these vertices around, but I think the cleaner option is to simply take this line here, this circle. Let's click on 3, and let's have a counting session here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's delete this circle, delete it, circle. 10, RY90, scale it down, RX, let's rotate it like this. I'm wondering if this is going to be correct. Okay, so let's select this, then that one, merge at last. Do the same for this, merge at last, merge at last, merge at last, merge at last, and this one merge at last. Let's delete all of the axis vertices right here. That should make things a little bit more clean. Let's click on 3. So let's move all of this up just a little bit more. I want it to be straighter, just like this, G and C. Like so, G and Z. GNC, a bit more like this. And I am now noticing that this is actually a whole lot smaller than we initially thought. So I'm going to press S and Z and make this smaller. That also gives us some extra space here. G to bring it up and give this some more room to breathe. Actually, it's just going over here, so we can probably fix that quite easily. So I'm going to press Shift A, circle, 10 vertices, RY 90, scale it down. If we want to rotate this, so one of these vertices is exactly in the middle on top, and all we have to do is 360 divided by 10, which is 36. And that means that if we rotate this by 36 degrees, nothing will happen because it's rotating exactly one of those increments. But if we do RX 18, then it should be perfectly aligned in the middle. R and Y, don't know why we didn't do that for the previous one, by the way, but no, doesn't matter. Going to place it right over here where I see in the reference that it is correct. I will scale it down just a little bit, just so it fits a little bit better, and we can clean up the topology later on. This one can be connected, merge at last. This one can be connected, merge at last, merge at last, merge at last, and merge at last. And finally merge at, last. Okay, and all of these can be removed, vertices. And now all we need to do is clean this up a little bit. So starting from over here to over there, SE0, this should be straight. So I'm going to do it on a median point. That's straight now. And do it the same for the bottom side, SE0, very good. And it doesn't seem like this one is completely straight. So I'm going to add a line in between here. And I will select this one last, cursor to this one first, cursor to selected. And then I will then I will set the pivot point to 3D cursor, SE0. That should place it in the exact same line. We can delete this edge then again. Do the same for this one. Make sure that everything is aligned properly. We could have probably done this smarter, but this is also just the way in which it works. So no problem. Press F. Shift S, cursor to selected. This one, SZ0, it's going to be brought down. This one, F. That seems pretty straight, to be honest. But still, SZ0 wasn't completely straight. And there you go. So if we now select all of these vertices, delete those edges, then we should have a perfect looking hole here. And that is the case. Now, on the other side, we didn't actually do it quite all right. So let's go into Dash. Let's select all of this. Let's delete this area. Delete the faces. Let's make sure that we add a mirror modifier. Let's bring it on top, like so. That should make everything be perfect again. Let's apply the mirror. Let's apply the mirror. A, M, merge by distance. Let's make it very small. Nothing is removed, so that is completely fine. But now we also have the hole on the other side. Let's have a check if this is still correct. It completely is, so nothing wrong here. Then I'm going to select this. Let's have a look. I'm not entirely sure what's going on there, but I'm just simply going to extrude it inwards. And before we do that, let's go back and make sure that the mirror is still there. Yeah, there you go. Let's do this. E and X. Let's bring it inside just a little bit. And I'm going to add a grid fill to fill that up. I'm going to select this line and bevel it with a bunch of segments, like 3 or something. Yeah, looks pretty cool. We can also add an extra loop cut in here and tidy things up a little bit. For the bottom side, I'm not entirely sure what the bottom side looks like. So let's see, what do we have here? We're first going to do the bottom side. So grid fill, we have grid filled the bottom side, and it looks like, okay, so there's 2 intricate shapes here. We have this one, we're going to do that one first, and we have this one. And somewhere in the middle over here, there is a sort of, yeah, there's a charging port. So let's select this part right here, press I, and I'm going to bring this inside. S and C, S and Y, and let's bring it down a little bit, S and X. And that shouldn't give us any shading issues because it is completely flat. Control 7, and I'm going to delete this, okay? Right over here, I'm going to place the 3D cursor, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Which means that we should probably add 8. Circle, let's do 8. Let's scale this down. Perfectly align it like so. There you go. Let's take this one and that one, merge at first in this case, and this one and that one merge at last in this case. We want to merge it towards the circle. Merge at last, and merge at last. Let's remove all our excess vertices that we do not need, and then let's select all of this. Let's select this, Shift S, cursor to selected. Let's select all of these. Let's remove all of these, so delete the faces. Let's select all of these. Pivot point to 3D cursor, Shift D, SX -1. That should bring it over to the other side perfectly, and it didn't, so we're going to bring it over by ourselves, simply by pressing G and X. Select everything, merge by distance, and increase this ever so slightly until 6 vertices are removed. Well, actually, it should have been 8. So I'm wondering why that didn't occur, but we're simply going to merge at last, and this one as well. Let's see, is there any issue here? There probably is, it's just not showing us. But I'm quite certain that there should be a vertex here. Let's see, merge by distance, okay. Now, as you can see, the normals are inverted, so Shift N, let's solve that problem real quickly. Control 7, I'm going right in here, and perhaps we need to scale this down on the Y-axis just a little bit more. Something like this, E and S. I'm going to scale this inward. As you can see, it's not doing so proportionally to the rest of the model, so we have to S and Y and make sure that it is. And in this case, we can slightly bring it upwards, so G and Z, not too much, just a little bit. And then I will press E once again and S. Make sure that everything is proportional, S and Y, and let's bring it inside like so. G and Z, this is completely invisible, so I'm going to press F to fill it with an N-gon and add some loop cuts right over here. If you want to make this sharper, simply select this edge and Control B to bevel it. But we shouldn't do that for this one, but we should do it for this one. There you go. So now we have this area where everything is supposed to go. So let's press I here and scale it down. So don't use I to scale it smaller, just scale it with S. To bring it right over there, S and Y, make it a whole lot thinner. And let's bring it down like this. Let's now add a couple of loop cuts here and maybe even one over there. Perhaps we can delete this, select this entire loop, grid fill, and make sure that it makes more sense. Like so. There you go. Perfect, perfect. Does look a bit too circular for my taste, actually. You always find out when you're too late. Always find out when you're too late. So Control 7. So let's click on 1. Let's click on Alt C, 3. And let's make sure to select everything here and hide it. Control 7. And then I'm going to click on 1. I will take these, S and Y, and scale this outward until it is making a bit more sense shape-wise. We can also do G and X if we want to make it a bit more, if we want to get it more in this type of shape, which I think is completely fine. Something like this. It's Alt H. Let's make sure everything is back now. Let's click on 1. Let's delete the entire right half, like so. X, delete the faces. Let's bring in a mirror. Mirror on top, like so. And that should solve all our problems if we now apply the mirror. All right, and now we're going to make this little hole right here. I'm not at all sure what this is supposed to be. And let's see if we can perhaps get another angle. Yeah, it seems to be slightly going inside here. So as if this part is a part of it, so to speak. Control 7, let's have a look at our area here. I think it should be something like this. First going to duplicate it and place it into the backup model. Press I, something like this, S and X. Let's move it like so. And I feel like if we just remove this, then it's already going to be the shape that we need it to be. But the question then is, how can we fill this up again? I don't think it should be that hard if we think about it. 1, 2, 3. So technically speaking, if I were to take this, E and Y, bring it all the way over here, let's make it mathematically perfect. Pivot point to 3D cursor, SY0, that should be right underneath there. We can select these, and now if we add 2 more loop cuts and slide these over to the correct location, once again, I'm going to do it mathematically perfect. SY0, since it's all straight, we can get away with this. SY0, and then we can fill this up. F, like so. Very cool. Now we're going to do the same for the middle part and this part on the side. I do believe that if we just use a mirror modifier again, that we can do it in a more easy fashion. So let's E and Z this. Let's take this, Shift S, cursor to selected. SZ0, that is going to be completely perfect. I will select this and select that, and this one, press F. That will fill that up. Let's take this and this one, press F. That should be perfect already. Let's add one right here. I'm going to Shift S, cursor to selected, SY0. It's pretty much the same thing all throughout, and I wish there was an easier way to do this, but unfortunately I haven't found it yet. So SY0, and let's just connect this up, press F, 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 and that should do the trick. So now let's do the mirror modifier trick again. Alt-C, let's take all of this, let's delete the faces, let's add a mirror, let's bring it on top, right over there, and yeah, I think we can apply it already. So apply it. So now we have this sharp hole here, but it's not very sharp as of yet. Now let's click on Control 7 and make sure that this part right here and this part right here is in the same line as the other ones. So I'm simply going to set this to median point, S and X, and scale this inward until it is straight. And as soon as it is, we will have this correct shape going on here. Now I do feel like there are some more details in there that I don't quite understand. I think it's a separate element, and I think it's a cylinder as well. So I'm going to select all of this, and then I'm going to select all of that, and I will press Ctrl B. This should make it that the bevel is still quite good. I do see some issues right over here, and that is due to our subdivision not being enough. If we were to make it 3, then yes, this would be a very dense mesh, but that would get rid of the final problems we have here. There's also a different solution. Let's remove the bevel, and let's assign the bevel weight with a weight of 1. And that will give us the same result, but this time without the extra subdivision or the extra topology for the bevel. For me, this is good enough. Then I'm going to add a little part right here. So I'm just simply going to duplicate this, Shift D, bring it up, separate the selection, select this, go into edit mode, A and E. Let's bring it up just a little bit. And that seems to be all right. I'm going to add a loop cut right here. Take this part, E, bring it up just a little bit and shade it smooth. Now I do see some issues with the mean bevel weight, so I'm going to turn that off, and I will add some topology here myself. Just like this. Now we have this part here, and we have this part here. And we're going to select that, we're going to press G and C in order to bring that up, in order to align it better with the shape that we already have. Okay, so now we have that part. I'm going to select this, which does seem pretty sharp, and increase the mean bevel weight. And then I will also take this, and loop tools, relax. Make sure that the iteration is set to 10. That will make everything a tad bit straighter and a bit more like the reference that I'm seeing. We see some issues here. I'm not sure why that is. It's probably due to the bevel weight not being applied here. So let's select that and make sure that we have a bevel there. Very good. And I'm seeing that it's also sloping upward near the end a little bit. So I'm simply going to add another loop cut right here, then take all of this and G and Z just a little bit like so. So we get that final edge in there. It's going through the mesh. It's not completely perfect, but I'm like, yeah, it's good enough. We can use the proportional editing tool in order to give this a very specific shape. So something like this should probably be slightly better than what we had before. And now the final thing I'm going to add here, Shift S, cursor to object, set origin to geometry, Shift S, cursor to selected. Let's add a cylinder, and the cylinder can be scaled down, RY90, bring it up, S and X, and let's have it be placed exactly over here. Bring it down a little bit and shade it smooth. Okay, now this cylinder can have a metal color, so I'm going to give it a small little metal color straight out of the box, like this. Okay. Yeah. That looks pretty much like the reference. And we got that perfectly done. So that is the bottom side. Now all we need is a hole in the front. And this one is a bit of trouble because we don't have enough topology here in order to get that done. So there are two options. We can either apply, so let me first place this in the backup model. And this choice is completely up to you because there's a sketching method to fix it. There's this hole in the front right here. And you can either just delete these faces and extrude this inside and just call it a day. Or if you want to do it in a better fashion, apply the bevel, apply one level of subdivision. Now it looks like this, so we have a lot more topology, but we also have some space in order to create the rest. So click on 7, 3, I'm going to do this by the way. So if you don't want to do this because it's too much topology, then don't. Press 1, select all of this. Let's make sure that we have an area here that's large enough. So now let's press I here. Let's bring it down. Let's press X. Let's delete those faces. So what we're going to do for this one is simply take it and let's apply some smoothing here until it is the correct shape. Let's add another subdivision surface modifier. That should look pretty good. I'm going to add a grid fill. Make sure it has enough topology for this, like so. Press E, bring it inside, just like this. And that should do the trick. We can now select this, mean bevel weight to 1. Let's add a bunch of loop cuts. And that's that. So now we also have the hole in the front. So that concludes this entire bottom part, which we have now fully created, and it is quite perfect. But we need the screen. The screen is very important, and as soon as this will be added, it will look 10 times better. And let's get some type of idea about the shape. Well, first things first, I'm going back into this model because I feel like if I select this entire inner loop, this one, and this one, we can scale it inward just a little bit, like so. I think it's a bit smoother. Yeah, that looks a lot better. Or better, it looks a lot more like the reference. So now let's finish this screen. The first thing I'm going to do is turn all of this off actually. So I'm going to turn the entire original model off. It seems like we have some other stuff here. I'm not going to be bothered by it. So what I want to do is select this object right here. Shift S, cursor to selected. I'm going to turn off the original model collection that we have here, and I'm going to press on 1. So let's click on 1. Let's add a mesh circle, 16 vertices. Scale it down, RX90, let's bring it up. Let's bring it right over here. And let's make sure that we do the exact same technique as always. Something like this. Press 1. In edit mode, select all of these, remove them, add a mirror modifier, Turn on the original model. Let's make sure it can be mirrored over to the other side. Let's turn the original model back off. Select this, E and X, until it is stopping due to the clipping. There you go. Now let's take all of this, Shift D, SZ -1, and let's bring this down until right over here, until this line is matching. Select this, and press F. Okay, now I'm going to add some loop cuts so that these edges are all the same size. So this one is the same size as this one, approximately. Let's do the same over here. And let's make sure that over here we have 1, 9 in between those. So let's also add 9 right over here. 9. Okay, let's apply the mirror. Select this. We can now fill this up with a grid fill. Perfect alignment at first try, that's great. So now you're probably wondering, how can we get this shape here? We're going to select this entire outer line until over here, E and Z, until the curves match. So right now the curve here is matching to the curve of the original object, and that's great. So what I want to do now is not do the same work twice. So let's once again delete all of this, delete those faces. Let's add a mirror modifier and let's select the original model. Let's make sure it's on this side. Turn it off again, and now we only have to work on these edges right here. There's multiple options, but I'm just simply going to do it by eye. I'm going to G and Z this and make sure it's following a meaningful path. Right over there. Right over here. Something like this should probably do the trick for this outline. Then I'm going to select all of these, E and Z, SZ0, and bring it down here to get the final part, like this. Maybe we need to play around with this one just a little bit. I'm not sure yet, so I'm not going to do it. I'm going to press Ctrl 3 in order to give this a subdivision surface modifier, and now we have the original shape. First things first, let's make sure that the screen is inside of this. We need to make sure that this is going into a curved motion so that we can fit the screen in there. So I'm going to apply the mirror right over here. And the first thing I'm going to do is basically select all of this. Then select this entire area that we just created. And then I'm going to press I. And I'm not going to move it, I'm going to scale it. I'm going to scale this inside so we retain the same shape, roughly. Now, this doesn't solve all our problems, as you can see. It's following along here perfectly. But we need to SC this just a little bit. And on the side, it is already quite perfect. But over here, we are starting to get some issues where it's not completely perfect. So I'm going to select this. And once again, once we've done this, I'm going to delete it. I'm going to add a mirror again here. So let's bring it on top of the subdivision surface modifier. Then let's take this and make sure to align those vertices a bit better right here. They should all be straight. So let's select this, SE0, and now it's straight. Let's apply the mirror once again, and it's probably not going to be the last time. We're going to select all of this that is supposed to be the interior, like so. And this area. And now the question is it going inside or outside? What I'm going to do is I will give this a vertex group and assign it, Control I, and so I'm going to assign this vertex group, Control I, remove everything, give it a new vertex group and assign it. So now we have it selected. Let's click on 3 and let's move this shape a little bit towards this side. It's slightly angled, but I'm going to do that later. It's not important for now. Going to take all of this E and Y, let's move it on the Y-axis and make sure that it is the correct shape. Very good. So now we can use our selection here. And it's also going to select the back side. We don't want that. Alt-C, hold Control and deselect it. If we now bring this inward, that should do the trick. So let's bring it in there, like so. And when I look at this, I feel like it's way thinner on the top. So in order to achieve that, I will add a loop cut right here. GG. And now here it is thinner than over there. So I'm going to S and Z this as well. And just make sure that everything has the approximate same size and length here. And as soon as I think that's the case, I can bring this part outward just a little bit. So we get the outer shape for this model, and that's great. So now let's make an area for the screen. There are two ways to do this. I'm going to hold Control Shift and click all the way to the other side to select all of this at once. Click on I and scale it, and scale it on the X-axis and make sure that the screen is exactly where it's supposed to be. And now we already have the curve. I'm going to give this a material, a sign. Let's call this screen right here, and Control I, and let's call it nothing. Okay, so now if we want to select this screen, let's go into this mode, select the screen and make it black. then we already have a part for the screen that is going to be quite perfect, but not entirely. I'm not sure what's going on here. Seems like we are having some trouble with the subdivision surface modifier. In general, if you just Shift-E this, that should solve the problem. And since it's a flat surface, it's not going to give us any issues. So Shift-E, and now we should have a perfect screen on here. Pretty good. So let's go back and make the rest of the details. Add a bevel modifier. Bevel modifier. Let's place it on top of the subdivision. Let's set it to weight. Let's select this edge. Let's increase the weight. But I feel like indeed it is going over in a bit of a more soft manner right here. And let's click on 1, because I do think that this is moving inside just a little bit. So let's select all of this. Let's click on 1, S and X, just a little bit to get that shape. Is that the case? I think it is. I think it is. And if not, we can always add a new one over here, an S and X as well. There you go. That seems to be the correct shape for this. And I also feel like this is moving backwards just a little bit. So G and Y, let's bring it right over there. Then I will place the 3D cursor on an edge right here, for example. Select it again, this part, pivot point 3D cursor, R and X. And I feel like it is sort of moving in this sloping angle, like this. Not completely sure, but I'm just going to roll with it. Next up, I'm going to add a loop cut right there in order to make it sharper. And that should be enough for the entire screen. This area should actually be moving like so, as if it is transitioning into it more nicely. I hope you understand this as well. So let's select both of these, press 1, S and X, G and Z, and let's bring it down until we are following this shape a bit more correctly. And we can also select this one, GG, slide it down just a little bit. So let's add an extra loop cut right here, and that gives us enough geometry to work on the buttons. So let's select this entire area. Okay, I'm going to press I, bring this inside, press X to delete the faces. And this normally would have been perfect if it wasn't for this part right here, but it's not perfect. So let's fix it. S and C should be slightly smaller. Yeah, I feel like we should move this up. G and C, like so. No problem in the shading. This part right here should all be flat, so SC0. So let's add a grid fill and make this slightly better. It's doing this because it's not perfectly aligned. Interesting. So let's add the cursor right here. Let's select those two. Pivot point 3D cursor SC0. I'm not sure what's going on here. Oh, we have a double. Yeah. Okay, so let's select these SC0. And that should make this shape perfect. So let's select all of this and grid fill it. That's perfect. Let's bring it outside. And does that seem like the shape or not? I think it does. No, it's not completely there. It's not completely there. There are two options. We can select both of these. Set this to median point, S and X, and let's scale it down until it becomes more circular. I think that's the fastest option. So we're going to do it. Then for this one, it is going to be a grid fill. Let's make sure that it's all completely perfect. And let's bring it inside. Then let's duplicate it. Separate the selection. Let's take it, E, and extrude it outwards. And now we should have this button. If we now select all the outer edges and Control B, then it looks completely perfect. That's nice. Let's add some loop cuts here as well, just to finalize this. And go into this model, select the entire loop, and give this a bevel as well. And now it's fitting in there perfectly. So we also have the button. Yeah, that's great. So now all we need to do is make sure we have the same thing on the other side. What I feel like doing actually, let me think about this. Let's turn off the subdivision. Let's if we delete all of this and we can simply get all of those parts to that side, then we're basically done, right? Not sure if this is the case. I'm just going to place the 3D cursor right here. Select this. So if I Shift D this now, SX-1, it should go over to the other side. And if I now merge by distance, it should remove some vertices. It's not doing that. I don't want 79 to be removed. So what I will do is I will select this and select an area right there, only on this side, like this. Then press M, merge by distance, and move this up until we are at the correct number, like 8. I'm not sure if 8 is the correct number, because if I now try to move this, everything does seem connected except for this part. Shift N. Turn this back on. It seems perfect, honestly. So I'm just going to roll with it. I will take this, grid fill it, make sure it is completely perfect. There you go. Press E, let's bring it inside. Shift D, P, separate the selection. Take this, E, bring it outside. Make sure that it's aligning somewhat with the other button. Select all the outer loops. Control B, bevel this. Let's add a bunch of those. Let's go back into the model, select the loop, Control B, and bevel it. So that's how to make the screen, pretty simple stuff. I'm first going to take a break. I will see you shortly. First things first. Now we have to make the buttons that are visible right here. I'm going to duplicate this, place this in a backup model. And now I'm going to simply make these buttons. I know, big shock. So I'm going to remove all of this, remove that, and on this side, we can now see exactly what's going on. It looks like we didn't accurately follow the reference here. So I'm just going to eyeball it on what I think it should be. So I'm going to select all of this, maybe just a little bit more. Press I and scale this down. If we turn this into a circle, things might look weird, but they might also look good. So I'm going for the looking good version here and place it to the side. And that's going to be enough for our little button right there. We can scale this down a little bit. And let's just keep a good focus on whatever it is we're seeing, I and S. And I'm going to bring this inside, press E. And once again, press I and S. It seems like this is supposed to be kind of flat. Bring it out again, just a little bit. And press I and S. Let's scale it down just a little bit. Press E again. This one can be scaled inward a little bit to get that sloping edge. And let's press I and S again. And now I'm going to bring this inside and we're going to make the button separately. This is at least the first circle. Very simple stuff. Nothing crazy going on here. Let's do the same for the second circle. Because if things are working out well, we need to take that motion and keep doing well. I know, I guess I should be a philosopher. Right now I have to press I again and Loop Tools Circle. I'm going to scale this down and make sure that it is placed on the exact area where we want this to be. Very good. Now let's have a look. It seems to me like this one is not that special. I'm going to press I and S and I will bring this inside. And in order to make that button, we're simply going to Shift D, P, separate the selection. Now we have this part, press E, bring it outside and cash me outside. Going to press E, bring this out once more, press S, and I think we're kind of already there. Maybe even more so, like S. Seems to be going inside just a little bit for the red button. I'm not entirely sure if this is going inside or going out. I'm not going to be bothered with the details here. I'm simply going to bring it inside. Press E and S, like so. And that gives us that cool little red button for this area. Now we might need to go into the mesh, select this circle and press Control B in order to add a bevel. I will do that immediately and that will get us this far. Shift D, let's place this in the backup. Let's click on 1. Let's have a look here. The fact that this is a sloping angle and that we don't have much space over here is going to become a problem. The way I see it is if we just simply don't have enough space here as well, then everything is equal. So if nobody can win, everybody has to lose, right? Just do it like this. I'm going to press I, scale this inward just a little bit, and I will select these lines, these edges, like so. And I will loop tools, relax. Let's set it to 3. We're getting close, we're getting kind of close. That's all right. I think we can move this down. Make it a bit more straight. GG. Or actually I'm just going to loop tools this as well. Loop tools, relax. There you go. But now it's not aligned properly. This one is lower than this one, etc. It's going to give us some issues. So let's set the pivot point to 3D cursor, SC0, and make sure that everything is aligned. SC0, we're going to do it exactly in this fashion. Shift S, cursor to selected, SC0, and now everything should be all right. I think this is all right. I don't like that this cube is not as big as this cube. But sometimes you can't just have it all in life. We just gotta deal with all the sorrows, all the problems. Loop tools, relax. Let's do 1 iteration. That's a whole lot better. So let's take this one. Loop tools, relax. And this is fine for me. Shift S, cursor to selected, SC0. We're going to do that for all of these. SC0. Shift S, cursor to selected, SC0. In theory, only in theory, not in practice, we should have enough here to work with. I think it's going inside. Just a little bit. Press E, press I, press S. Scale it down ever so slightly, but make sure to have median point selected here. I bring it outside again, just like this. And then what we want to do is make sure that this is also following some type of curvature. I think that is the case. We're just going to use G. Select both of these, move them up. Select this one, move it up as well. And now we should have some type of curved shape. We're going to do the same right over here. So both of these should be moved up like this. This one and that one can move up ever so slightly as well. And now we're going to select it, this entire area. Let's press I, let's bring it inward, and GC, Z, G, blah, blah, GY. Let's just do GY. GC, bring it down ourselves, like this. That looks pretty decent. I think with some loop cuts here, yeah, that kind of looks like the reference. I do feel like if we need to take all of these, S and Z, bring it down a little bit, G and Y, bring it over it a little bit. I think that is more correct according to the reference. I didn't make the rules, the reference made the rules. And that simply means that we only need to create the button, and the button seems like a little thing that you can adjust with your thumb. Not even sure what the shape is. And whenever you are struggling, just give up for a moment. That is completely fine. We're going to select all of this. Select loops, loop in a region, Shift S, cursor to selected, and that will place it exactly in the middle. We do have to do it in another way. I'm going to add a cube. There you go. I'm going to edit mode, subdivide this a couple of times. Maybe something like this. I will go to this little button, shear to sphere. And now just click left mouse button, and that will turn this into a sphere. Then I'm going to click on 1, and let's go over here and let's select this. Delete the faces. RX90, RX180, we've all been there. Control 3 to add this on here, move it out a little bit. And this is obviously not the correct shape. So I'm going to S and Y this until we get something that looks a little bit like our original. R and X, let's make sure it's rotated on the same side. Let's see, that seems pretty decent. I feel like it's going more like this. And then for this one as well, I'm going to scale this out as well. Just so we are adhering a bit more to the original shape. Like this. Scale it down a little bit. Something like that. And then I will select this entire outer loop. E, ZZ, scale it inwards, E, ZZ, let's bring this over there, let's add a bunch of geometry, and right over here as well. And that should give us, let's delete the old one, it's not good. Let's place it exactly in the center, scale it down, and with regard to this one, I'm going to press Ctrl B, and give it only one segment, and move it a bit like so. Since we didn't want to do this one, at least we finished this one. So now let's make the button. All right, awesome. So I actually found some footage where we can see something. Let's delete these, dissolve these edges. So now let's create this little button. We're going right over here. I'm going to select all of this, Shift S, cursor to selected, and I'm going to add a plane. This plane can be scaled down until we reach this part, approximately around here. RX90, let's make sure it is straight. S and Z, and let's scale this down. Let's have a look at our vision here. S and Z, yeah, something like this. S and X, something like this. I'm going to make a mirror modifier here, so I will go to the modifiers, mirror. And now we only have to work on this side. I'm going to press E and X and scale this down, S and C, without proportional editing, like this. Very good. Now, it should also be moved on the Y-axis, somewhere over here. That should probably do the trick. Maybe it can go even further, like so. I'm going to bring this forward just a little bit. And now what I want to do is select this part, cursor to selected, and I will add a circle. 16 is all right. I'm going to scale this down and I will click on 1, RX90, G and Z, and let's bring this over to the other side. It should have a mirror modifier. So let's go to the modifiers, add a mirror like this. And now we can move all of this to the side. We should probably scale it up a little bit because it is skewed due to the perspective of the camera. I will connect both of these simply by pressing E and X. Make sure clipping is turned on, G and X, bring it back until it's in the middle. Add a loop cut over here, add a loop cut over there. And now we have the circular shape that we're looking for. Let's set the pivot point to 3D cursor. Let's G and Z this until it's all the way down on the 3D cursor, R and X. And let's rotate this until we get the angle correct. Something like this. I will go over here, add a loop cut. Let's remove all of this. And let's also turn the mirror modifier on the Y-axis in this case. We turn it around and that's why it's the Y-axis. Not that big of a deal. Now, the way I see it is that we need to apply this mirror. And then we're going to connect it to this one, Control J. It's going to be placed over on the other side. I'm going to press 1. I believe the correct path here would be to first add some loop cuts over here. I'm going to add those. All of these will be connected to each other. So merge at last, merge at last, merge at last, merge at last. This one can be merged at last. And for this one, I'm going to add a new loop cut, merge at last. And that is going in the right direction. Now the idea is that we can connect this up with each other. And the way I'm going to do it is by applying the mirror. We might have some double vertices right here. So I'm going to merge by distance. and make sure that all of these 44 are removed. Right over here. It's going to end up flat on the sides, but it should be connected to all of this. So I'm going to press E. So I'm going to select both of these, E and Y, and let's bring it right over there. I'm not a big fan of the fact that this is going inside. So I'm going to press S and X, and now it should be a tad bit smoother. Very good. Unfortunately, when I press F here, it is not going to allow me to create this shape, and that is a problem. So I'm going to press E and Z for this one. And actually, I'm just going to remove these for now, because it's going to be more work. I'll click on one and make sure that these are connected. Unfortunately, F is still not working, so I'm just going to press E and Z and have all of this be connected. So E and Z, press F. I'm just going to finish this work. Let's select all of this, delete these vertices. I'm going to add a mirror modifier once again. Place it on top of the subdivision, and that should do the trick. Very good. Now we only have to do this part. So let's select all of this, E and Y, and let's scale this out. And we're just simply going to connect the last one. Now, obviously this is not completely aligned. And in order to fix that, we're simply going to do it by hand for now. G and Y, G and Y, G and Y. And make sure that if we select all of this now, and we do SY 0 with median point selected, SY 0, that everything is starting to make sense here. Shift N. I will select all of this, delete the vertices, and mirror it on the Y-axis as well. So now we have them both. I'm going to apply the mirror, and now I'm going to simply fill these up. So if we use a grid fill, just like this, then it's going to be perfectly fine. I'm going to press I, press S, scale it in just a little bit, press E, and let's bring that inside ever so slightly. Looks pretty decent. I'm going to do this one now, to add a grid fill, press I, E, bring it inside ever so slightly. These right here are kind of breaking the mesh in an unexpected manner. It's not following along correctly with the reference. So we're going to press S and X and bring this down until it is more circular again. Let's have a look. G and X. What if you were to place it right in there? Will it look good? Let's see. I think this is the shape this button has. The problem, however, is that this actually should have been brought inside. So if we look from the angle 3 and select this one as well, then we can use Shift Z to bring this slightly inside, just like this, G and Y, and give it this curvature. Because I believe that that is the case. That's what's actually going on here. Now we might want to play around with the S and X as well. And then we're going to clean this up. So something is now off. Obviously this entire side is no longer straight. We're going to use Loop Tools Relax in order to fix that problem. I'm going to give it a grid fill. It is immediately quite alright. Now here we also have some issues. So it's not a perfect circle anymore. So I'm going to select both of these. So I'm going to select this one first. Then I will select all of this and Loop Tools Relax. That's going to turn it into more of a circular shape again. We have to do the same for the other side. Let's do it. Loop Tools Relax. There you go. So the way I see it, it might be the case, but this needs to be scaled down a little bit more. And we're just simply going to do that. Then I will take both of these and bring them ever so slightly inside. So it's following along with the curvature a bit more, and that looks pretty cool to me. Let's click on 3, and let's also add a loop cut right here to make this sharper. R and X, let's rotate this so it's fitting completely on top of the model. like so. It seems to me as if this is slightly skewed. Click on one, G and Z. Let's bring this down just a little bit in order to have this curved shape make a bit more sense. So let's scale it up just a little bit. I think it can be slightly less thick. So if we just SZZ this and move it around until it fits completely perfectly on this model. Like so. That's a bit more according to the reference. Let's have a look at this real quickly. If we give it a black color, it's just a simple black color. Copy material to select it. And yeah, that's the shape. It seems like a complex shape, but in reality, it's just two circles and a plane. So let's make that little light area now. If I click on one, it's supposed to be quite small, but this seems pretty big. I don't think we should start from over here. We should probably start from somewhere over here. The first intuition I get is to simply use a knife tool. But I'm going to assume that this is not as big as that we're seeing it. I'm going to keep this quite small. Right over here. C and X. Bring it right there. And that is a problem, by the way, if we do that. Don't do that. Let's move it. And now let's cut a hole in this. Let's remove this edge. Let's click on one, because this is the original face. I'm going to press K. Okay, let's move this over here, and then another one right over there. All right, so what I'm looking for is that right over here, the spacing between all of this should be kind of similar. So this one should be at the same distance level, for example, as this one. G and X, they should be the same distance. This one can literally be done by using a 3D cursor, pivot point to 3D cursor SC0. So that can be brought down. SY0 as well. That's perfect. And these two lines are already approximately the same size. And we can spot that because these two are also approximately the same size. Now the way I see it is that we should probably make another cut like this. Let's take this line, let's do that, okay. Select it, GG, make it straight. Let's do the same over here. And there you go. And then let's select this. And in theory, if we were to separate this selection, we would already get something that looks pretty close. I still think it's a bit too big, by the way. So let's go back. These should be placed upwards. And these as well. Maybe even more. It's just a very small bit here. So I'm going to select this. Press P, separate the selection. And does this seem like something that I can roll with? Let's add an emission. Let's make it a bit more greenish. Let's see. Where is it? Okay. Copy material to select it. This one assign. Should be even smaller. So let's go back, back until it is connected again. All right over here. It is connected again. We're going to select all of these. GG, move it up even further, just like this. And this cannot fill. I mean, P, separate the selection. This is the right size. Finding the right size is a bit of a hassle, but I think we got it right. I don't think we have to do anything else with this unless we want a very clear separation. Why not? So let's go over here. In this one, we might need to fill this up because we have this empty hole. So what I will do is select all of these, press E and Y, just like this. And select these last one. Then select the last ones, just like so. That seems pretty decent. And let's select this and let's select the entire line, like so. Using a bevel weight, that makes it look crisp. I will simply connect this and this, press F. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. H. Let's remove those for now. We have one line. Let's place a loop cut. Let's place a loop cut and let's place a loop cut. What's going wrong here? I'm not entirely sure. We are going to get a triangle there. That's not very nice. It's also not the end of the world. There you go. All H. It's triangles. How about we just merge at last, like this. So let's bring back our other circle. Let's add some thickness to this by adding a solidify. Doesn't have to be that thick. Something like this. And make it go inside instead of outside. We're simply going to mask it away. We're going to bring these up for our button. G and Z. Like so. And take this and G and Z. And make sure that everything makes a bit more sense. I'm going to select all of this, by the way. And SX0, make sure it's straight. And then if I want to make some adjustments here, I could just do it like this. Okay, so there you go. We have a beautiful looking light right here. I think that's perfectly matched to the reference. So all that's left to do is to make this part in the side here where the red button can be placed into. And then the entire model will be finished and we can go over to the texturing. All right, so we're now going to make this little red button. And the way I see it, it is attached to this part itself. So there's a slight part coming out of this as we look over here. And there is a slight curvature going along here. So let's select all of this. Let's press I, let's bring it right over there. And the first thing that I'm thinking about is that we should probably select all of these lines. Make sure that auto merge is turned on. And let's bring it right over there. And that should remove everything immediately. Let's now select these vertices, such as this one, that one, and let's make it follow the shape. Something like this. Something like that, more in this type of fashion. All right. And what I'm thinking is that if we place a 3D cursor right here and then select all of these, set this to 3D cursor, and then rotate this on the Z axis, then we should get the type of curvature that we're looking for. In order to pronounce that, let's select all of this and increase the bevel weight, like so. I think this is pretty decent, but I think we can also do a better job by clicking on 3 and making this a bit more logical. And that seems to be the little part that we needed. We can do the same thing right over here. So add a 3D cursor, take all of this, R and Z, let's bring this outside just a little bit. Select all of these and increase the bevel weight. That's pretty decent. We can now select all of this. Press I and B. I'm not sure why it's not taking the boundary at this point in time, but we can also just select this area like so and delete the faces. Let's have a look here. It's way too big. So let's have a look here. It seems to be moving in a different type of curvature. So I'm going to bring this over like so. That makes a little bit more sense for me. And for these lines, we're also going to increase the bevel weight. Like this. Now we do get some shading issues here. So let's merge that at last, and that should remove that problem. So now I'm going to select this, and we kind of just want to make sure that when we press I, we're catching this original shape. So press I, scale it down, set it to individual origins, scale it down a little bit, move it up, rotate it, whatever you need to do. Click on one, let's adjust the shape a little bit until we get the button. Like this. And then we're going to select all of these. And the idea is to separate the selection. And then once we have the selection, we can extrude these faces along normals, like so. Then select this edge and this edge. Turn on proportional editing, S and X, with median point turned on. So something like this. It's not following the reference perfectly anyways, so we're not going to make this big, because it's going to attract a lot of attention. I don't like that. We are going to select the backside and everything that's part of it. Same for this one. Alt E and extrude this until it's completely going inside. And then we're going to scale it up. S and Z, and make sure that it's fitting completely inside of the hole. Like this. And we might have to select this line and increase the bevel weight. Let's set this to individual origins, S and Y, and make sure that the object origins are in a logical position. S and Y, so something like this. There you go. If you're not happy with the shape yet, just like me, we can simply select these, G and X, and adjust the shape until it is correct. Something like this. All right. Now I'm going to delete this one. I'm not going to do the same work twice. We're going to add a mirror modifier and select this object. There you go. So let's have a look here. Let's make this red. It does seem a lot softer though when I look at it like this. So I'm going to SX0 this so it becomes straight. Bring it somewhere over there. Then take this line, then add a loop cut in the middle. Then take this line and GG this until we get a shape that looks more rounded like this. Cool. So now let's give it a red color. This seems to be red. And there you go. We now have the side as well. And that seems to be correct shape-wise. We also have this little area that is going outside of it. I do think we can pronounce a bit more that there's a hole here, simply by taking all of this, setting this to median point, ESX, and let's bring it inside just a little bit. And let's grid fill it, and that it won't do. So Let's just select one of these, grid fill it, adjust it. Yeah, I'm just going to roll with this. It's not going to be visible anyways. And if we bring it back, that looks kind of good. We could go for an extra loop cut here and then bevel it and add some more just to make it more straight. With regard to the size, let's change this to individual origins, S and Y, and let's just make sure that we can actually see that something is going on there as well. Now I don't like this area, honestly. There's something odd about it. So I'm going to make sure that that area is fixed simply by adding a new one, connecting this and connecting that, and that should solve the problem, but it didn't. So let's just increase the bevel weight on that line. All right, pretty cool. We could select this and pronounce it even more, but I think it's going to be a bit of an overkill. Let's just keep it subtle like this. I think what's bugging me is the fact that this seems to be way closer to the edge than we have right here. I think we have. All right, so there we have it. So now for the finishing touch, I feel like this part here needs to be closed, first of all. I'm going to add a grid fill, play around with this until it's a bit more straight, something like so. Perfectly straight. And this area. So if I look at the reference, it's actually pushed back a little bit further, and right now it's sticking out over here, and that seems a little bit odd. So I'm going to select this entire area, select proportional editing as well, G and Y, and let's just bring this back a little bit until it fits the reference, like so. Instead of a crease right here, this one. Let's turn it into a bevel weight. Let's make sure there's actually a bevel as well. Bring it on top, turn it to weight, and now that should look a little bit better. And perhaps we're going to do it for this one as well. Ascent X just a little bit. And there you go, that seems pretty nice. And now let's also give it somewhat of a crease. Not too much, just a little bit. There you go. The only part I think is weird right now is that this is not completely circular anymore. So I'm simply going to select this entire line. Take that one as well. And take the bottom one as well. And loop tools, relax. I think this solves the problem. And that makes it look a bit more premium. Very good. Final thing, I want to add a loop cut right here. It's going to make things a little bit more sharp all throughout. Let's also give it a bevel like this. Now for the final part, I'm going to select this, go right over here, and I want to select this area in the middle. I almost forgot about it, but luckily we're still here. I'm going to add a cylinder. I'm going to scale that down by quite a bit. RX 90, GNX, scale it down, bring it up, scale it up, GNX, GNC. Go into edit mode, Shift D and Z. Now we can see that both of them are actually way too tall. So individual origins, let's scale this down until it fits right in here. Like this, G and X. And now I'm going to add an array. Like so, just increase the amount and the offset relative until it fits in there. Something like this. Very cool, shaded smooth, and we can probably take all of this and Control B to bevel it with a couple of those. Very small little detail, barely noticeable, but still, I kind of like it. Let's have a look at this. Yeah, that's great. Okay, all right, looking at our finalized model right here, I've placed it in a small little scene. I want to make one more change, because if I look at all of this, I think it looks pretty good. This one as well, this as well. However, this part, all of these should be more circular. In order to fix this, what we're going to do is enter into edit mode. It's a very simple fix. We're going to select all of these. So select this, select it, shift, hold control, like this. Make sure you get all of these that are the same size. So I guess that's going to be all of those, perhaps even this one. So let's select it. Control plus, so now we have the entire area selected. Control I to invert the selection, H to hide it. And then we're going to select all of the middle areas, turn on proportional editing, click on 3, Alt Z, S and Z. And when you do this, make sure that you are not changing the part right over here where I'm going with my mouse right now. So don't do that. Just do this part and make sure that it's following this circular type shape a little bit better. There you go. And I think if we now go back, that looks a whole lot better, except for this one. So I guess we were a bit too hasty in selecting that one as well, because now it's sticking out. But all of these are now a lot more circular, just like the original. So let's go back. Let's make sure that this one, this one, this one, and this one is also selected and hidden. And then we're going to select this edge right here. Click on 3, Alt Z, and for all of those, S and Z, and just bring it down ever so slightly. until it makes more sense, like this. And that is the exact way that we're going to do this. I think this looks better. So that's the end of the corrections in this model. If you want to learn everything about product animation, I have a wonderful course for you. It consists of 4 complete product animations from start to end. Modeling, texturing, animating, geometry nodes, simulations, anything that you can imagine. And I can easily say this is probably the most affordable Blender course with the most amount of information and different type of elements in it. So I hope you enjoyed this modeling tutorial. In the next one, we are going to create the textures for this model, and it's also going to be quite advanced, but I hope you are as excited as I am, and I will see you right there.